Chapter 224. Mu Weining stared at Tan Xiao, dumbfounded. She didn't expect Tan Xiao to come up with such a ridiculous idea. Moreover, this was the first time she had heard such words from a man's mouth because of her indifferent personality. Novel and shy. Two blushes appeared on her pure white oval face as she hurriedly stood up and ran towards the door with large strides. She was afraid that Tan Xiao would see her shy and awkward expression. "You don't want the painting anymore?" Tang Xiao looked at Mu Weining's back and the corner of his mouth slightly creased. Mu Weining's footsteps paused as she felt her face heat up. Almost as soon as he turned around, he rushed to the counter and hugged the long box with the sailing pavilion painting in his arms. Then he rushed to the door, opened the door and fled. She went back to her room and closed the door from the inside. Then, she leaned against the door and covered her chest with her hands. She didn't know why. Her heart was beating very fast. Maybe it was because Tan Xiao said that she was a virgin, or maybe it was because the topic was out of her range of acceptance. In short, the flustered feeling in her heart took a long time before she slowly calmed down. "That guy is such a weirdo." Mu Weining spat softly and walked inside with a bit of shyness. In the hotel room, Tang Xiao gently opened the yellow cloth bag and took out the demon stone coffin. After fiddling with it for a while, he found that the lid of the coffin was tightly connected to the bottom. If he hadn't used his spiritual sense to probe it, he wouldn't have been able to find the gap between them. Moreover, the magic stone had the ability to block out divine sense, so he couldn't figure out what was inside. Finally, Tan Xiao stopped observing and injected his astral powers into the coffin. Crack! The gap cracked. The moment Tan Xiao retracted his hand, the lid of the coffin floated up. Tan Xiao's pupils contracted and he couldn't believe it. Even though he had a tough personality and there were very few things that could shock him, the things inside the coffin still shocked him like a tidal wave. To be more precise, it wasn't just shock, there was also horror. Runic demon bone. Inside the coffin was a runic demon bone. Tan Xiao knew very well that apart from great demon King Haslu, who had been entangled with him for thousands of years, there was no one else who possessed this kind of runic demon bone. This runic demon bone was taken from the segment closest to the heart of the demon body. How is this possible? The forging of the runic demon bone was Haslu's original creation. That fellow was eccentric and his heart was filled with darkness. He had lived for nearly 20,000 years and did not even have a disciple. How could a runic demon bone appear on Earth? Could it be that he's dead? But if he's dead, who brought his runic demon bone to Earth? Gu Yener? Tan Xiao's expression kept changing. He suppressed the shock and horror in his heart and tried to calm his tumbling emotions. Regardless of whether this runic demon bone belonged to great demon King Haslu or not, this runic demon bone was too important to him. Tan Xiao could even be sure that with this runic demon bone, his cultivation would definitely be comparable to that of a junior immortal within a few years. "It's a pity that my current cultivation is too weak. I simply can't bear the huge amount of energy contained in the runic demon bone. It's impossible to use it to temper my body. Unless my cultivation reaches the first level of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, Star's tyrannical body great perfection realm." Tan Xiao took a deep breath and gently pinched the coffin lid. After closing the coffin again, he gently held the magic stone coffin with both hands and silently absorbed the demonic power contained in it. Right now, he was unable to absorb the demonic power contained within the runic demon bone. Unable to absorb the runic demon bone into his body, he was slightly disappointed. However, with the existence of the demon stone coffin, he could first borrow the demonic power contained within the demon stone coffin to increase the strength of his physique and increase his cultivation level. Tan Xiao silently circulated the star power in his body according to the cultivation route of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. In an instant, the stars in the sky lit up slightly. At the moment when the stars dimmed, the star power from all directions surged towards him like a tide. At the same time, the demonic power contained in the magic stone coffin surged into his body through his palms. When the star power and the demonic power came into contact, it did not cause any conflict. Instead, they blended together like water and milk. It turned into a transparent liquid and surged in his body like clear water. Tan Xiao could keenly feel that the strength of his body was increasing at an extremely alarming rate. The transparent liquid continuously washed his body, cleansing and tempering it. It was like forging iron, constantly removing the impurities in his body and continuously tempering it. It was also because of this transparent liquid that the star power around him increased by 10 times and was infused into his body, turning a portion of it into his cultivation. Pain, comfort. Two completely opposite feelings, but Tan Xiao could clearly feel them. Gradually, his consciousness entered a state of emptiness. He just sat there, motionless like a statue. Time flew by. Tan Xiao maintained that posture until the first ray of sunlight rose in the morning. When he opened his eyes, full of energy, he could no longer conceal the smile in his eyes. He could clearly feel that the width of his skin layer had been stretched to the limit, and between the layers of skin, there was a huge surge of star power. The star power had undergone a qualitative change, as if it was a part of his body. At this moment, he had a feeling that even if someone shot at him, the bullet would not be able to penetrate his skin. Finally reached the great completion of the skin strengthening stage. Just one step away from the skin strengthening stage and reaching the flesh strengthening stage. Moreover, I'm afraid that my current physical strength has long surpassed the flesh strengthening stage. Once I reach this stage, how much stronger will my physical strength be? Tan Xiao secretly looked forward to it. Suddenly, he frowned, and a foul smell floated into his nostrils. Looking at the thin layer of grayish-black substance on the surface of his body, Tan Xiao shook his head. The impurities in his body were discharged, and there was actually more than before. He entered the bathroom. Tang Xiao comfortably took a bath and waited until the stench on his body had completely disappeared. Only then did he wear clean clothes with a satisfied expression. Feeling refreshed, he took his things and walked out of the room. Since he didn't know the room number of Li Bai and Mu Weining, nor did he have their contact information, he decided not to greet them. He directly left the hotel and took a taxi to the airport. To his surprise, at the entrance of the airport ticket hall, he saw that professor who had arrived and was waiting for him. "You came so early?" asked Tan Xiao as he stepped forward. Professor Hu forced a smile and said, "We only said that we would meet at the airport yesterday, but we didn't set a time. I wanted to go to the hotel to find you, but I was afraid that you would go out early in the morning, so I rushed to the airport to wait for you." "Let's go." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "I haven't bought a ticket yet. Let's buy a ticket first and then find a place to eat something." "All right." At the Sheraton Hotel in Tianjin City, Mu Weining, who was wearing a long skirt and had long flowing hair, came to Tan Xiao's room. She knocked on the door and waited for a long time, but there was no movement. When she went to the front desk of the hotel to inquire, she found out that Tan Xiao had checked out and left. "What? Lu Bai was surprised. Mu Weining nodded with a forced smile and said, "He checked out an hour ago." "He indeed left." Lu Bai said, "We forgot to exchange contact information yesterday. He doesn't know where we are staying, so it's normal for him to leave. I'll call old Hu and tell them to meet at the airport today. I'll get Tan Xiao's contact information later." However, after Li Bai dialed the number, he simply asked a few words and then hung up. He put away his mobile and said with a forced smile, "Young people nowadays are really lazy. This Tan Xiao is really an amazing young man. He even got up so early to catch the plane. I've asked old Hu to get Tan Xiao's number later. When I return to Shanghai, I'll send someone to deliver the Wintertide Fluorite and Star Fragment Stone to Star City." Mu Weining chuckled and said, "Teacher, you seem to care a lot about this Tan Xiao now." Lu Bai sighed and said, "More than that. I'm even curious about him. Although we've only been in contact with him for a night, don't you think he's very mysterious? Aren't you curious about him?" Mu Weining said, "He's indeed very mysterious. I'm also curious about him." Lu Bai said with a smile, "But it's all right. We'll have a lot of time to get in contact with him later to understand him. He's a young man who can draw divine works and write valuable calligraphy. He's also proficient in music. It won't be a problem for him to be a professor. I'm really curious about him." Mu Weining chuckled and said, "Teacher, You're missing two things. Lu Bai was confused and said, "What did I miss?" Mu Weining said, "He's also proficient in medical skills. He's also the master of the endless virtue pharmaceuticals big boss, Qin Jizhong." Lu Bai patted his forehead and said with a smile, "I'm old and confused." That's right. Such a young man is full of secrets. I really want to know him thoroughly. To tell you the truth, I've been studying the world's geography and archaeology for most of my life. I've also stayed in Shanghai University for more than half of my life. I've met countless outstanding talents. But now I find that no one is more outstanding than him. Mu Weining chuckled and said, "He's indeed very outstanding, but he's also very strange." Lu Bai was confused and asked, "What do you mean?" Mu Weining's pretty face blushed. She recalled the absurd fallacy Tan Xiu told her last night. She shook her head and said, "Nothing. Teacher, we've finished our business in Tianjin City. Are you going back to Shanghai? Or are you going to stay with me in the imperial capital for some time? My grandpa has been talking about you for a long time." Lu Bai hesitated for a moment and said, "I'll go back to Shanghai first. I'll send the Wintertide Fluorite and Star Fragment Stone to Tan Xiu, and then I'll go to the imperial capital to meet with your grandpa." Mu Weining said softly, "Then I'll wait for you in the imperial capital." Lu Bai said with a smile, "All right. Tell your grandpa to prepare good wine for me in advance. He and I are going to drink until we're drunk." "Don't worry, teacher. I'll pass your words to grandpa," said Mu Weining with a chuckle while covering her mouth. Chapter 225. Star City. After Tan Xiu arrived with Professor Hu, he informed Chen Zhizhong in advance, so when the two of them walked out of the airport, Chen Zhizhong was already waiting for them outside. "Master, you're back." Chen Zhizhong respectfully greeted Tan Xiu and then glanced at Professor Hu. Tan Xiu said, "Yeah, I came back as soon as I finished my business. Kong Xia has already told me about the aftermath of that incident. You've done a good job. The earlier it ends, the earlier you can put your energy into the project. I'm short on money, so I'm looking forward to the end of the project, so that I can recover some money earlier." Chen Zhizhong forced a smile and said, "Master, I'll remember your words. I'll urge Long Hanwen and the others." Tan Xiu then introduced, "He's called, forget it. Just call him Professor Hu. I'm going to Tianjin City to look for him. However, he came to you to buy medicinal herbs. Help him as much as possible. After all, it's related to how long he can live." Chen Zhizhong said, "You called me last night, so I immediately gave the order. There should be a result in a few days." Tan Xiu said, "You can handle this matter as you see fit. Send me back to Southgate Town first, and then settle him down. If he's willing to stay in Star City, find a place for him to stay. If he's willing to go back, buy a plane ticket for him." "Understood." Chen Zhizhong respectfully nodded. Professor Hu had been standing at the side, watching the words and actions of Tan Xiu and Chen Zhizhong. This strange feeling made him shocked. He was perfectly aware of Chen Zhizhong's identity and knew how high his status in the country was. After returning home last night, he investigated Chen Zhizhong and the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical. The result made him know that the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical's assets were 2 or 3 times more than the 10 billion he expected. At this moment, he was filled with intense curiosity about Tan Xiu's identity. Southgate Town. When Tan Xiu came back, he found his mother, Su Lingyun, chatting with Gu Yin. A middle-aged woman and a young girl were wearing aprons and cleaning the hall. "Mom, has Sister Mu left?" Tan Xiu put the things in his hands on the sofa and asked with a smile. Su Lingyun said with a smile, "Son, I only found out last night that you went out of town. Therefore, he stayed to accompany little Yin. She had already left. She had followed the 4 teachers to another city. She said that she would be there for a week. Before she left, she asked the staff of the property management office to help us find 2 nannies." Tan Xiu nodded. Seeing that they had stopped their work, he lightly said, "There are 2 places in this villa that you don't need to clean. One is my study room, and the other is the storeroom outside." "Understood. All right." The 2 nannies nodded in agreement. Tan Xiu turned to look at Gu Yin and asked with a smile, "Why aren't there any supplementary lessons today?" Gu Yin said, "This morning's class has ended." The teacher said that studying in the morning was the time when one's thoughts were the clearest, so he came early every day. "By the way, master, can you give me some money?" Surprised, Tan Xiu asked, "What do you want money for?" Gu Yin said, "I heard from the math teacher who tutored me that there is a student in her tutorial class who is seriously ill. His family doesn't have enough money, so many students in the tutorial class have donated money. I also want to donate some money." "You didn't tell your mom?" Tan Xiu asked. Gu Yin's tone was a bit gloomy as she said, "I told my mom, but she didn't want to give it to me. She said that I should do what I can. If I want to help others, I must study hard in the future and practice hard with master. Then I can rely on my own hands to help others in the future." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Your mom told you a lot. But kindness must be cultivated from a young age. I can give you some money." "Really?" Gu Yin's eyes lit up and asked in surprise. "When has master ever lied to you?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. Gu Yin immediately shook her head and said with all seriousness, "Master has never lied to me." Tan Xiu pinched her pink little face with satisfaction. He then looked at Su Lingyun and said, "Mom, you can live here later. I have a lot of things to do recently, so I'm afraid I won't be able to come back for a long time." "All right, I'll take care of Yin here then," Su Lingyun said with a smile. "You don't have to deliberately stay at home. You can go to the restaurant if you're worried about it," said Tan Xiu. "For example, after Yin finishes her study in the morning, you can deliberately take her to the restaurant to play. It's not good for her to always stay at home." "I know. Don't worry about it," Su Lingyun said with a smile. Tan Xiu nodded and then grabbed the things he brought back and went to the study room on the second floor. There were a lot of precious things in the study room. Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment before he decided to buy a large safe box. The internet was a good thing. Recently, Tan Xiu had become more and more accustomed to using the internet to do things. After searching on the internet, he picked a large safe box that was half a person tall. After doing the online transaction, he put away his mobile. After lunch, Tan Xiu left Southgate Town and took a car to the abandoned winery he had bought. He found that the place had changed greatly. A lot of dilapidated factories had been pushed down, and trucks were constantly coming and going from the winery's entrance. "With this scale, I might as well buy a piece of land to build a new winery." Tan Xiu forced a smile and shook his head. He then dialed Scarblade Chang's cell number. "Boss?" Scarblade Chang's probing voice came from the phone. Tan Xiu said, "It's me. I'm at the winery's entrance." "Where are you?" Scarblade Chang said, "I'm inside. Please wait a moment, boss. I'll come out immediately." A few minutes later, Scarblade Chang was drenched in sweat as he ran out from the inside. Beside him were two middle-aged men wearing safety helmets, whom Tan Xiu didn't know. "Boss, are you here to inspect the work?" Scarblade Chang wiped the sweat on his face and said with a smile. Tan Xiu said, "I'm here to see the progress." There. Scarblade Chang quickly introduced, "They are the technical masters sent by Chief Kong. This is Li Yang and this is Lu Wei. They are very capable. If it weren't for their help, I would still be having a headache about the winery's renovation." "Boss." "Hello, boss." Li Yang and Lu Wei called out at the same time. There was a shocked expression on their faces. They didn't expect that the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss would be so young. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Hello. How's the progress of the winery now? When will the winery be completely renovated? Has the preliminary work been completed?" Li Yang said, "The preliminary work will be completed in 2 months at most. Then, we'll start testing the machines to test the wine production." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. He then slowly shook his head and said, "The speed is too slow. Tell Kong Xia to send more construction teams. The winery must be renovated within half a month. The first batch of wine must be produced within a month. Tell her not to be afraid of spending money in the early stage. Once the first batch of wine is produced, I'll be able to earn back all the money I spent to buy the winery." Li Yang and Lu Wei looked at each other in dismay. They didn't quite believe Tan Xiu's words. Scarblade Chang, on the other hand, trusted Tan Xiu very much. With a high fighting spirit, he said with all seriousness, "Boss, I'll tell Chief Kong your words. I'll also resolutely obey your orders and complete it within the specified time. Tan Xiu patted his shoulder and said, "Take me inside to have a look." Alright. An hour later, accompanied by Scarblade Chong and the others, Tan Xiu inspected the winery's situation. To Tan Xiu's satisfaction, although most of the winery's factories had been demolished and rebuilt, there were still some that could be used. Even the winery's office building and staff dormitory could also be used. Finally, the four of them stopped in front of a factory that didn't need to be renovated. Scarblade Chong introduced, "Boss, this factory was originally built by the winery. Although the outside looks a bit dilapidated, the inside is actually very clean and tidy. It won't be a problem for it to be used for 8 to 10 years. Chief Kong has purchased a new batch of wine production equipment according to your requirements. Recently, I've taken some time to test the brewing method you taught me, as well as the wine formula. I've repeatedly experimented dozens of times, and the wine I brewed is very delicious. Is there any more?" Tan Xiu asked. "Yes, there are 2 more jars," Scarblade Chong said. "They're in this factory." Tan Xiu said, "Let's go. Take me to have a taste." Scarblade Chong complied and took the lead to enter the factory. He quickly took out a jar of wine from the neatly arranged items inside, opened the seal, and carefully poured a bowl. He handed it over to Tan Xiu and said, "Boss, this is the wine I brewed after experimenting dozens of times. Please have a taste." Tan Xiu took the bowl of wine and tasted it. He then shook his head and said, "The taste is good, but it's still far from what I expected. Did you really follow the recipe I gave you?" "It's exactly the same." Scarblade Chong nodded. "That's strange," Tan Xiu said with a strange expression. "It's reasonable to say that if you had brewed it according to the brewing method I gave you, the taste of the wine would have been much better than this, maybe even several times better. The aroma lingers in the mouth, and the aftertaste is endless. Where exactly did the problem come from?" Scarblade Chong said with a puzzled expression, "Boss, how can this wine exist in this world? I think other than the heavenly bejeweled nectar, no other wine can achieve this, right?" "The heavenly bejeweled nectar?" Tan Xiu keenly caught the name in Scarblade Chong's words. His eyes suddenly lit up. He turned around and sent Li Yang and Lu Wei away. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Change the grains used to brew the wine to glutinous rice. Then, find some fresh bamboo leaves and soak them in the water used to brew the wine. Remember, it must be fresh bamboo leaves. Wash them clean and put them in the water used to brew the wine." Scarblade Chong nodded and said, "I'll do it later. I'll try it a few more times after I buy it." Tan Xiu nodded and said with all seriousness, "Scarblade Chong, it's very difficult for me to make a lot of money in a short period of time from my other businesses. Now is the time when I need money, so you must pay attention to it. I guarantee that you'll definitely be rich if you follow me in the future." Chapter 230, acting like a snob, Scarblade Chong heavily nodded and said, "Don't worry, boss. In any case, I, Scarblade Chong, will be your man in the future. Even if I die, I'll be your ghost. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. As for the winery and the wine, I'll go all out to do it." Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and said again, "I just found out that there's no one guarding outside the warehouse. Remember, the recipe I gave you must be kept a secret. Also, the process of producing the wine must be separated in each factory. The hired workers will only be responsible for one process. When the winery's reconstruction is completed and the large-scale production of wine begins, I'll ask Kong Xia to recruit a lot of security personnel. You must keep it absolutely confidential." Scarblade Chong said, "I understand, boss. I won't let a second person know about the brewing process and the recipe except for me. I'll arrange some people to guard here and absolutely don't let anyone come in." Tan Xiu patted his shoulder and said, "All right, I've said what I need to say. There's still something I need to do." "I'll send you off," Scarblade Chong quickly said. Tan Xiu didn't refuse and was escorted outside the winery by Scarblade Chong. Only then did he suddenly realize that it was not easy to stop a taxi here. However, he didn't let Scarblade Chong send him off. He walked for 2 kilometers before he happened to meet a taxi. "Little brother, where are you going?" the taxi driver asked. Tan Xiu said, "To Star City Chinese Medical Hospital." "All right," the taxi driver replied. After starting the car, he quickly sent Tan Xiu to the entrance of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. After paying the fare, Tan Xiu didn't directly go to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, but went to a nearby bank instead. He didn't have much cash on him, but he promised Gu Yin that he would give her some money. Tan Xiu would definitely withdraw some cash and put it at home for a rainy day. Inside the bank, there were a lot of people handling business, withdrawing and depositing money. Tan Xiu took a number and then stood in the corner, quietly waiting. The bank was not big, and there were only 3 counters to handle business. An hour later, Tan Xiu's brows deeply wrinkled, because he found that there was a notification of the number of people queuing up. There were a total of 23 people queuing up in front of him. However, there were A and V characters in front of the numbers. There was only one window for the A number, while there were 2 windows for the V number. Even one of the windows had no one handling business for most of the time. It's almost 4 p.m. There are still 5 people in front of me. I don't know how long I have to wait. Tan Xiu shook his head with a forced smile. He felt that waiting here was a waste of time. He originally planned to go to the Chinese medical hospital to see Li Hongji today, as well as take a look at the office where he would be providing medical services. Tomorrow, he would come to the Chinese medical hospital to give medical services. But who would have thought that he would be delayed in the bank for such a long time? At this time, a young man wearing sunglasses came to the number pickup machine. The man took a number and then heard the call. Then, he went directly to the V number window. Tan Xiu frowned. A puzzled look was revealed in his eyes. After hesitating for a moment, he quickly recognized the lobby manager with the name tag. He walked over and asked, "Hello, can you explain to me? That person just came to the bank, but why can he handle the business directly? I've been waiting for an hour, but it's still not my turn yet?" The lobby manager was a middle-aged woman. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's question, she said, "Show me your number." Tan Xiu handed it over to her. The lobby manager glanced at it and gave it back to Tan Xiu, saying, "Yours is an ordinary number. That person is a VIP member of our bank, so he can handle the business at the VIP counter. If you want to be like him and not line up, then upgrade to our bank's VIP member." "How can I become a VIP member of your bank?" Tan Xiu asked with a confused expression. The lobby manager said, "You have at least 100,000 yuan in your account, and the deposit period must be more than 2 months. May I ask if you have more than 100,000 yuan in your bank account every day in the last 2 months? Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he immediately shook his head and said, "No." A trace of contempt was revealed in the lobby manager's eyes as she lightly said, "Since you don't have it, then wait. Others can wait, so you can too." Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed as he said in a deep voice, "I think this is not the only way to become a VIP member of your bank, right?" A trace of impatience was revealed on the lobby manager's face as she said, "Of course it's not the only way. But do you have 1 million yuan in your bank account? Do you want to handle more than 1 million yuan? If you can handle it, then fine. You can also enjoy the VIP treatment." After saying that, she simply didn't give Tan Xiu the opportunity to speak and strode to the other side. Tan Xiu took a deep breath as he strode to catch up with the lobby manager and said in a deep voice, "You just said that the business I want to handle is more than 1 million yuan. The lobby manager looked at Tan Xiu and immediately said, "Then go and get a new number. But I'll tell you that if you change to AV number and don't handle more than 1 million yuan, the VIP counter will not handle it for you." The young man who just came in had finished his business and passed by Tan Xiu and the lobby manager. Upon hearing the lobby manager's words, a bit of disdain was revealed on his face as he interjected, "Dude, don't pretend to be big if you don't have money. You want to handle more than 1 million yuan business at your age? What a joke." After saying that, he shook his head and walked out with disdain. Am I being despised? Tan Xiu secretly smiled wryly inside. Immediately, he went to the front of the number pickup machine and took a V number. Upon hearing his number being called, he immediately went to the VIP counter and said to the staff handling the business, "Hello, please withdraw the money." The staff took the bank card handed over by Tan Xiu and asked, How much do you want to withdraw? Tan Xiu said, 1 million in cash. How much? The staff stared blankly and then immediately asked in surprise. Tan Xiu confirmed, 1 million. The staff turned his head and said a few words to a middle-aged man who looked like a leader. Then he turned back to Tan Xiu and said, I'm really sorry. We don't have so much cash prepared since the amount you want to withdraw is quite large. So, please make an appointment in advance and come back tomorrow to withdraw the money. Your bank's lobby manager told me that if I'm not a member of your bank, this VIP window can only handle more than 1 million yuan, said Tan Xiu. I want to withdraw 1 million yuan now, and you tell me that I need to make an appointment. Isn't this too overbearing? The staff forced a smile and said, I hope you understand our work, sir. This is the bank's rules and regulations. We can't do anything about it. Tan Xiu frowned and said, Then tell me, I want to withdraw money now. How much can you give me? The staff hesitated for a moment and said, You must make an appointment in advance if it's more than 500,000 yuan. Then I'll withdraw 500,000 yuan, said Tan Xiu. The staff spoke a few more words to the middle-aged man who looked like a leader inside. Then he stood up and said, Sir, I'll have to trouble you to come to the VIP private room next door. Since the amount you want is quite large, we'll handle it for you inside to avoid any accidents. This is troublesome. Tan Xiu sighed. He now really wanted to set up his own bank. However, although he could open a private bank in the country, there were too many problems. Countless of them were inextricably linked to the government. So he could only dream about it. Carrying the black bag provided by the bank, Tan Xiu gave up the idea of going to the Chinese medical hospital and directly took a bus back to Southgate Town. After returning home, he called Li Hongji and told him that he could go to the Chinese medical hospital tomorrow. Upon hearing it, Li Hongji was naturally overjoyed and repeatedly promised that he would wait for him at the Chinese medical hospital early in the morning. In the evening, after Gu Yin's tutor finished her class, Tan Xiu chatted with her for a while and gave her 20,000 yuan as a token of Gu Yin's sincerity. At the Century Hotel in Star City, Yang Xinyu was holding a book as he sat by the window of the room, quietly reading. An old lady with a crooked mouth and slanted eyes was sleeping soundly on the bed near him. Ring, ring, ring. The ringtone of his mobile woke him up from his reading state. He looked at the time and found that it was already 8 p.m. He didn't know who would call him at this time. He picked up the phone. When he saw the saved number, his complexion suddenly changed and immediately pressed the answer button. Hello, President Li. I'm Yang Xinyu. Mr. Yang, I'm calling you this late. Did I disturb your rest? Li Hongji's laughter came out of the phone. Yang Xinyu quickly said, No. I haven't rested yet. President Li, are you calling me because Tan Xiu is going to the Chinese medical hospital to provide medical services? Li Hongji said, Yes. He just called me and said that he'll come tomorrow morning. If you're still in Star City, come here too. That old geezer, Jiang Feng, has been mentioning this matter to me a lot recently. Yang Xinyu said with a smile, I know. Thank you, President Li. You're so busy but you still remember my wife's matter. After Tan Xiu treats my wife, I'll treat you to a drink. He hung up the phone. An excited expression appeared on Li Hongji's face. He had been suffering these days. He even brought his wife to many hospitals in Star City, but none of them could treat his wife's strange illness. Therefore, he had pinned all his hopes on Tan Xiu. Immediately, he began to call his children, telling them to rush to Star City overnight no matter what they were busy with. Then, he called Jiang Feng and kept thanking him on the phone. Old Li, we've been old friends for many years, so you don't need to be so polite. Rest early, I'll accompany you to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital tomorrow. Jiang Feng said on the phone. Yang Xinyu stared blankly for a moment and hesitated. Old Jiang, will you go? Jiang Feng stared blankly for a moment before he forced a smile and said, If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten that Tan Xiu and I had a bit of a grudge before. Forget it, I won't go then. Yang Xinyu hesitated for a moment before he said, How about you come too? The matter between you and Tan Xiu has been written off. If he's not a narrow-minded person, he won't mind it anymore. I'm very grateful to the brothers and sisters of KHT for their generous rewards and monthly votes. Today's 4 chapters have been released. Quiet Night will strive to release 10 chapters tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Brothers and sisters, please continue to support Quiet Night with your monthly votes. Thank you. Chapter 226. The summer morning was still as hot as before. The whole world seemed to wake up along with the passing of the curtain of night. After having breakfast, Tan Xiu hurried to the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Tan Xiu, you're finally here. Li Hongji stood outside the main building of the Chinese Medical Hospital with a radiant face, accompanied by several important leaders of the hospital. Upon seeing that Tan Xiu had arrived, he took the lead to greet him. Tan Xiu said with a smile, "It's not 8 yet. Am I late?" Li Hongji shook his head and said, "You're not late. I'm just too impatient. Let's go. I'll take you to the consultation room. If you're not satisfied, I'll arrange someone to change it for you." All right. Tan Xiu complied and said, "President Li, I'm here to see patients, not to inspect the work. Just let these leaders do their own thing." Li Hongji and Tan Xiu had met several times. He knew that Tan Xiu didn't like to be in the limelight. Therefore, he let the leaders leave with a smile and personally took Tan Xiu to the consultation room to have a look. "This place is good, but help me arrange a medical staff. If I need anything, just tell him to do it for me directly." Tan Xiu looked at the consultation room and nodded. Li Hongji said with a smile, "I'll personally help you and also learn some experience from you." Tan Xiu snappily said, "You're the dignified president of the Chinese Medical Hospital. If you follow me everywhere, won't it cause a riot? Quickly arrange it." Li Hongji hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, "Then wait here for a while. The consultation time of our Chinese Medical Hospital will start at 8:30. I'll arrange someone to come now." All right. Tan Xiu went to the consultation table and sat down. He looked at the stethoscope and other medical tools placed on it and directly put them into the drawer. He didn't know how to use Western medicine's tools, nor did he need them. Chinese medicine was particular about looking, listening, questioning, and feeling the pulse. He observed the patient's words, observed the patient's complexion, and diagnosed the patient's condition. A few minutes later, Li Hongji came to the consultation room with a middle-aged woman who was still attractive. The middle-aged woman was wearing a white coat and had her hands in the pockets of her coat, looking like a famous doctor. "Tan Xiu, I found him for you. Her name is Sun Wenjing. She is a very good doctor in our hospital. She is familiar with medicinal herbs and has good medical skills. I've already instructed her. If you have any instructions when you're consulting the patient, just let her know. She will definitely execute it immediately," Li Hongji said with a smile. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "All right then. You go to your work first. Just let her stay here." Sun Wenjing frowned. When she saw Tan Xiu's appearance, a sense of absurdity rose in her heart. Now that she heard Tan Xiu speak to the dean in such a manner, she couldn't help but say, "Dean, don't go yet. Are you kidding me? You want me to stop my work and do odd jobs for this little brat?" Li Hongji's complexion slightly changed as he shouted in a low voice, "Shut up. Tan Xiu is a Chinese medicine practitioner personally hired by me. He has great medical skills. Your job is to obey the hospital's arrangement. If you're not up to the task, you can tell me now and I'll drive you back." Sun Wenjing reluctantly said, "I'll obey your order, Dean. But you want me to do odd jobs here, especially for such a young man. Isn't this a waste of my time? He's still young. Even if he has a famous master and a great Chinese medicine practitioner to teach him, he can't learn much at such a young age. Please don't glare at me. I'm just telling the truth." Li Hongji glared at Sun Wenjing with an unsightly expression. Then he looked at Tan Xiu with a bit of embarrassment and said with a forced smile, "Tan Xiu, you're a magnanimous person. Don't lower yourself to her level. Women only know how to judge people by their appearance. Forget it. I'll drive her back and find another excellent doctor for you." Tan Xiu wasn't very satisfied with Sun Wenjing. This woman should have some ability. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to contradict the president. However, what he needed was someone to do odd jobs, someone who would unconditionally carry out his orders. Therefore, he nodded and said, "Then change it. This kind of short-sighted person is not fit to be put in an important position. I'm just here to do a diagnosis, not to make trouble." Sun Wenjing's complexion greatly changed. Anger could be seen in her eyes as she glared at Tan Xiu and shouted, "What did you say? You're the short-sighted one. You're not fit to be put in an important position. You're so young, yet you're so arrogant and domineering. Our president is polite to you because our president is gentle and friendly." Li Hongji looked at Sun Wenjing like an idiot. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that Sun Wenjing, who was usually very quick-witted and proficient in the ways of the world, would be bewitched today. Every word of hers was filled with a bit of anger, and even she herself was polite to Tang Xiu. Yet she still couldn't sense the problem here. "Sun Wenjing, shut the hell up if you don't want to be suspended. No matter what happened to you today, as long as you dare to offend Tan Xiu again, it's tantamount to offending me. I remember clearly telling you that Tan Xiu is a Chinese medicine grandmaster that I've spent a lot of effort to invite. Also, I forgot to tell you one thing. His medical skills are even better than mine." "What? That's impossible." Sun Wenjing was stunned. She looked at Li Hongji and Tan Xiu in disbelief. A sneer appeared on her face as she glanced at Tan Xiu with disdain. Then she turned around and left the consultation room. She was in a bad mood today, very bad. Her kind mother-in-law was suddenly found to have middle-stage liver cancer. Moreover, the cancer cells had already spread, and it was impossible to completely remove it. Her colleague, who examined her mother-in-law, told her that her mother-in-law probably still had half a year to a year left. Therefore, she hated herself for her poor medical skills. She was helpless when facing her mother-in-law who had liver cancer. She also hated those quacks who didn't have any real skills but insisted on wearing white coats. Tan Xiu looked to be in his early 20s at most. She didn't believe that Tan Xiu had great Chinese medicine skills, nor did she believe that his medical skills were better than the president's. She believed that the reason why the president flattered Tan Xiu was definitely because of some other reason. She was just a doctor, and she didn't think that she needed to flatter a young man who didn't have any real skills. Li Hongji looked at Sun Wenjing's back as she left. He gave an apologetic look to Tan Xiu and strode out of the consultation room. He came outside. He quickly caught up with Sun Wenjing. After stopping her, he scolded in a deep voice, "What the hell happened to you today? I originally thought highly of you and hoped that you could help Tan Xiu by his side and learn some great medical skills from him. But this kind of heavenly good thing was forcefully ruined by you." Sun Wenjing didn't dare to contradict Li Hongji, but she still said, "President, please don't joke with me. If that young man really has the ability, why would he need my help?" "Shut up," Li Hongji shouted angrily. "Do you think that I would have sent someone to clean up a consultation room and let him come to our hospital to see patients if he didn't have the real ability? Do you think I would have sent someone to clean up a consultation room and let him come to our hospital to see patients? If his medical skills weren't great, would I have done my best to arrange everything for him with a smiling face? I used to think that you're very smart and proficient in the ways of the world. But what's wrong with you today? You can't even see through this problem?" Sun Wenjing was confused. "Are you really not joking? There was a woman surnamed Mu who came to our hospital with her daughter who had a strange disease. Did you know about this?" Li Hongji said in a deep voice. "I heard about it." Sun Wenjing nodded. "It seems that even you couldn't cure that little girl's disease. Even that woman surnamed Mu took her daughter all over the country, yet no one could cure that little girl's strange disease. Why did you suddenly mention this matter, President?" "That's right." Li Hongji sneered. "Whether it's Chinese medicine or Western medicine, that woman surnamed Mu has looked for at least hundreds of doctors and visited hundreds of hospitals. None of them could cure her daughter's strange disease. But Tan Xiu could. And he even cured her." "Really?" Sun Wenjing's first reaction was that Li Hongji was lying. "Do you think I'm lying?" Li Hongji sneered. Sun Wenjing quickly shook her head. She was well aware of the president's character. Her first reaction was to despise Tan Xiu. She didn't believe that the president would joke about this matter. Li Hongji coldly said. Also, a few days ago, 6 or 7 specialists from the orthopedics and cardiology department performed surgery on a wounded patient. The patient had a nail pierced near his heart. You should know about this matter, right? I wasn't on duty that night, but I heard about it later, said Sun Wenjing. Could it be that the person who rushed to our hospital overnight and took the nail out of the patient's body was him? Li Hongji sneered. Aside from him, who else has such a great ability? I really don't know what to say about you. Such a great opportunity was wasted by you just like that. Forget it. It's useless for me to criticize and educate you anymore. Go back. After that, Li Hongji shook his head and sighed with his hands clasped behind his back as he walked toward the corridor. Sun Wenjing was tongue-tied as she looked at Li Hongji's back as he left. Suddenly, regret rose in her heart. If President Li didn't lie and Tan Xiu was really a great Chinese medicine grandmaster, then wouldn't she have missed an opportunity in vain? However, he was so old. Even if he started learning Chinese medicine in his mother's womb, it would only be 20 years, right? Even if his medical skills were great, how great could it be? Thinking up to here, Sun Wenjing curled her lips. She didn't go back to her office directly but went to the inpatient department to see her mother-in-law who was receiving an 4-drip. Now, her mother-in-law's cancer cells were spreading and were constantly intensifying. If she couldn't get timely medical treatment, let alone a year and a half, even 3 to 5 months would be her limit. Wenjing, I'm fine. You're working in the hospital and your work is important. Don't always come to me, lest you delay your work. The old lady on the sickbed said with a smile. Chapter 227. At 8:30 in the morning, Tan Xiu, who was wearing a white coat personally given to him by Li Hongji, was sitting at the consultation table, quietly waiting for the arrival of the first patient. Beside him, a young girl in her early 20s was constantly sizing up Tan Xiu with curious eyes. Dai Xinyue was a newcomer in the hospital's pharmacy. She had just graduated from college and was assigned here for a few months. However, she had a foundation in Chinese medicine because her grandfather was an old Chinese medicine practitioner and her parents were also engaged in the medical field. Therefore, she had some skills under the influence of her family. Dai Xinyue was curious about Tan Xiu, but she also somewhat worshipped him. It was because Tan Xiu was almost the same age as her, yet he was able to become an on-duty doctor. This was absolutely a great thing. Knock, knock. The consultation room's door was knocked as several patients' family members pushed a patient to the consultation room. What made Tan Xiu frown was that he unexpectedly knew the old man. He was Yang Xinyu, whom he had seen when he challenged the Rising Dragon Martial School. Hello, Divine Dr. Tang. Yang Xinyu's posture was very low, and there was still a smile on his face. Tan Xiu nodded slightly. He got up and looked at the old lady who was pushed by the cart. His brows suddenly furrowed. Walking forward, Tan Xiu grabbed the old lady's wrist and felt her pulse. After half a minute, he looked at Yang Xinyu and said, "Have you checked her before? What did the other doctors tell you?" "They said it was a stroke, but I don't believe it," said Yang Xinyu truthfully. "Why do you say that?" Tan Xiu asked. "Although my wife's symptoms are similar to a stroke on the surface, her words are very clear. Moreover, the words she said about gods, Buddhas, ghosts, and monsters are very evil. I don't think it's a stroke, but more like she's possessed." "You're right. She's indeed possessed." Tan Xiu nodded. Yang Xinyu stared blankly for a moment before his complexion changed and he hurriedly said, "Divine Dr. Tang, since you can see that my wife is possessed, I believe you must have a way to treat her, right? Previously in the Rising Dragon Martial School, I have offended you. I hope you can be magnanimous and don't take it to heart." Tan Xiu lightly said, "Let bygones be bygones. The Dangyang acupoint on your wife's head was invaded by evil energy. Fortunately, her body has a very strong Jas flame aura, so that evil energy did not invade her sea of consciousness. Otherwise, she would have already become an idiot." "Hey, what are you talking about?" Yang Zhenting, who was standing behind Yang Xinyu, said angrily. "Shut up." Yang Xinyu's complexion changed as he reprimanded in a deep voice. Yang Zhenting said, Dad, this kid is making things up. How could my mom be bewitched? She has been diagnosed by the hospital. It's just a stroke. Let's follow the treatment for a stroke and slowly nurse my mother back to health. I believe she will get better. Pa! Yang Xinyu fiercely slapped Yang Jinting's face and sternly shouted, "If you dare to say another word, I, Yang Xinyu, will not have you as my son, and you're not allowed to see us again in the future." Upon hearing it, Yang Jinting suddenly looked a bit timid. He lowered his head and no longer spoke. Tan Xiu shook his head and lightly said, "All of you get out." Yang Xinyu misunderstood Tan Xiu's meaning and hurriedly said, "Divine Dr. Tang, please don't lower yourself to my son's level. It's my fault for not teaching him properly. In any case, you must save my wife." Tan Xiu said, "What I mean is that all of you leave. I'll treat her now." Good, good, good. Yang Xinyu was overjoyed and immediately took all his children out. Tan Xiu looked at Dai Xinyue and calmly said, "I told you to find the silver needles. Take them out and sterilize them with alcohol cotton." Alright. Dai Xinyue was very obedient. She quickly sterilized the silver needles and put them back into the box. Tan Xiu helped the old lady to sit up and said, "Untie her shirt and take off everything except her underwear." Dai Xinyue hesitated for a moment, but she still followed Tan Xiu's order. Shortly after, the old lady's clothes were taken off. Tan Xiu grabbed her and turned her over so that her back was facing upwards. Then, he took out a few silver needles and quickly pierced them into the acupoints on her back. Tan Xiu's fingers gently pressed the position between the silver needles and moved according to the route of the meridians in the human body. 2 minutes later, cough, cough. The old lady woke up from her coma and coughed a few times before she opened her eyes. A glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he took out a silver needle lightning fast and quickly pierced it into her Dangyang acupoint. His acupuncture technique was extremely strange. He would stab 3 times, pull out 1, then stab again, pull out again, and stab another 3 times. Twisting, lifting, and piercing. After repeating it 9 times, Tan Xiu quickly pulled out the silver needles. Stinks. Dai Xinyue had been standing next to the old lady. When Tan Xiu pulled out the silver needles on the old lady's Dangyang acupoint, a stench suddenly floated out from there. She even clearly saw a trace of grayish-black gas floating out from the acupuncture point. Tan Xiu put down the silver needles and gently held the old lady's face with both hands. As his 5 fingers exerted force and rubbed, the old lady's crooked mouth and eyes changed. Of course, no one knew that when he was rubbing, he secretly used his star power into the old lady's facial muscles to help her correct her appearance. From the beginning of Tan Xiu's treatment to the end, it took a total of more than 10 minutes. When Tan Xiu retracted his hands, the old lady's appearance was no different from a normal person. After pulling out the silver needles on her back, Tan Xiu ordered, "Help her get dressed. Then tell the patient's family to come in." Dai Xinyue was staring blankly at the old lady's appearance. When she heard Tan Xiu's words, she was suddenly startled. After coming back to her senses, she quickly asked, "Doctor? Dr. Tang, what did you just say?" "I'm sorry, I was absent-minded." Tan Xiu repeated what he just said. Then he went to the wash basin, washed his hands, and sat back at the consulting table. Quickly, Yang Xinyu and his children came in. When they saw the old lady's appearance, each and every one of them had an inconceivable expression. "Divine Dr. Tang, my wife, Tan Xiu said, "I've already treated her. It's just a small problem. I'll give you some Chinese medicine later. After you get the medicine, go back and boil it. Let her take it and recuperate for a few days. She should be fine. However, I think you should check the things around her. There should be some evil things around her. If you don't pay attention and the evil energy invades her body later, it won't be so easy to treat her." Yang Xinyu was shocked. "It's done." "What's wrong?" Tan Xiu asked. "You don't believe me?" Yang Xinyu immediately shook his head and said with a serious expression, "I believe you, Divine Dr. Tang. I've been waiting for you to come to the Chinese medical hospital with my wife for a long time. Thank you, thank you. The last time I saw you in the Rising Dragon Martial School, was it because—" Tan Xiu was surprised. Yang Xinyu forced a smile and said, "The last time I came to Star City was to look for you. I heard the news about you treating that little girl's strange illness in Jingmen Island. I knew that you're a great divine doctor. Later, after asking around, I learned that you're from Star City. In Star City, the Rising Dragon Martial School's master, Jiang Feng, is an old friend of mine. When I went to see him that day, I happened to meet you." Tan Xiu suddenly understood as he nodded and said, "If you see Jiang Feng again, pass my message to him. Opening a martial school is a good thing. It can strengthen the body and protect the country. But if he bullies the common people just because he has some martial arts, he might as well disband the martial school earlier." Yang Xinyu said, "Divine Dr. Tang, you actually don't know. That old friend of mine has always been upright and outspoken all his life. He absolutely hates those who bully others by force and can't wait to teach them a lesson. He flew into a rage when a traitorous disciple appeared in his martial school. He has already kicked them out and increased the management." "I got it," Tan Xiu said. After saying that, he quickly wrote a prescription and handed it over to Yang Xinyu, saying, "Go get the medicine. I've written down the things you need to pay attention to when decocting the medicine. Remember it well." "Thank you. Thank you, Divine Dr. Tang," Yang Xinyu said gratefully. Tan Xiu shook his head and watched them leave. Then, he turned to look at Dai Xinyue and lightly asked, "What do you think?" The shocked expression on Dai Xinyue's face had yet to fade away. Upon hearing the question, a bit of worship was revealed on her face as she said, "Dr. Tang, you're really amazing. However, I don't quite understand the demonic energy you just mentioned." Tan Xiu lightly said, "If you want to be an outstanding Chinese medicine practitioner, you must not only understand the patient's condition and injury, but also understand some situations that ordinary people are unable to come into contact with. For example, the patient I just treated. She was bewitched. There's spiritual energy, life energy, death energy, corpse energy, and evil energy in this world. Therefore, if you encounter a similar patient in the future, don't just consider it from the patient's symptoms. You must also consider some unscientific things, but they really exist." Dai Xinyue firmly nodded and said, "I'll remember your teachings, Dr. Tang." Tan Xiu was quite satisfied with Dai Xinyue's performance. Compared to Sun Wenjing, who judged people by their appearance, he thought that changing an assistant was a good choice. Therefore, he decided to teach her as much as possible during the consultation. Knock, knock. The door was knocked again as a young man entered the ward while clutching his stomach. After sitting on the chair in front of the consultation table, he said with a painful face, "Hello, doctor. I have a stomachache. It's very painful. Give me your wrist." Tan Xiu said. The young man stretched out his wrist. After Tan Xiu checked his pulse, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He got up and walked behind the young man, grabbing his shoulder with one hand and patting his back with the other. Clap, clap, clap. A series of patting sounds made the patients and their family members waiting at the door look at each other in dismay. Even Dai Xinyue looked puzzled. Tan Xiu glanced at Dai Xinyue and lightly said, "Do you know how to check the pulse to diagnose the illness?" "A little bit," said Dai Xinyue quickly. "I've learned it from my grandpa before. General illnesses can be diagnosed by looking, listening, questioning, and feeling the pulse." Chapter 228. Tan Xiu said, "Since you can do it, then keep it in mind. If you encounter a patient with weak qi and blood and shortness of breath in the future, you can determine if the patient's meridians are blocked by stagnant qi, causing the cecum to convulse. Cause severe abdominal pain. Look at my gestures clearly and remember the position and frequency of my patting." Upon hearing this, Dai Xinyue instantly understood that Tan Xiu was giving her medical advice. She was overjoyed and nodded heavily. Then, she concentrated on observing Tan Xiu's patting technique. 2 minutes later, the young man coughed a few times and then let out a big fart. The painful expression on his face then disappeared. Tan Xiu released the young man and returned to the consulting table. He then said with a smile, "It's good to be young, but you should also pay attention to your health. After all, the body is the capital of revolution. If you empty your body so early, It will easily bring trouble in the future. The young man instantly understood Tan Xiu's meaning. With a bit of embarrassment on his face, he said, "Thank you, doctor. I'll keep it in mind. You're really a divine doctor. I just had a terrible stomachache. But after you patted it for a while, it doesn't hurt anymore. I feel warm and comfortable inside my body." Tan Xiu said with a smile, "You're welcome. It's what I should do. You should go now. There are other patients behind you." "Yeah." The young man came in while clutching his stomach and straightened his back before leaving. Several patients and their family members at the door looked at each other. They were a bit disappointed when they first came to the door of the consulting room. They didn't expect that Tan Xiu's medical skill was so amazing that he could cure a patient with a terrible stomachache in just 2 or 3 strokes. Amazing! You really can't judge a book by its cover. This doctor is so young, yet he has such amazing medical skills. He will become a world-famous divine doctor in the future. Amazing! I've heard of a lot of amazing doctors, but none of them are so young. It seems that I came to the right place to see a doctor in this Chinese medical hospital today. It's my turn. A middle-aged woman came into the consulting room. She handed the registration form to Tan Xiu and said, "Hello, doctor. I've been feeling dizzy and flustered recently. Sometimes, I also feel nauseous and have insomnia. Please take a look at me. What's wrong with me?" Tang Xiu observed her a few times and found that her complexion was pale, her lips were faintly purple, and there were beads of sweat on her forehead. He immediately said, "I'll check your pulse first. We'll talk about the situation later." The middle-aged woman quickly stretched her wrist. After checking the middle-aged woman's pulse, Tang Xiu found that her problem wasn't small. Her kidney function had problems, and there were symptoms of kidney failure. Moreover, she had severe anemia. If this continued, her body would collapse in 2 months at most. After a moment, Tang Xiu loosened the middle-aged woman's wrist and said, "Take off your shoes and socks. Bring the chair over and sit opposite me." Tan Xiu said, "Tan Xiu." The middle-aged woman, and Tan the middle-aged woman's eyes. The tan and the of blood. The woman's eye. Tang Xiu grabbed the middle-aged woman's bare feet and put them on his lap. His fingers then gently kneaded and massaged several important acupoints on her feet. Seeing the painful expression on the middle-aged woman's face, he lightly asked, "Does it hurt?" With a painful expression, the middle-aged woman nodded and said, "It hurts a lot." "You don't pay attention to your body." Tan Xiu sighed. "You're severely anemic and your pulse is very weak. Furthermore, the most serious thing is your kidney function. It's showing signs of failure. If you don't treat it in time, the consequences will be very serious. I'll massage your acupoints to relieve the uncomfortable feeling in your body. But you still need to recuperate slowly if you want to treat it. I'll give you a prescription of Chinese medicine. Buy it and boil it. Take it every morning and evening for a month." "Can I recover if I take it for a month?" asked the middle-aged woman. "Yes, and you'll become strong and healthy," said Tan Xiu. The middle-aged woman was overjoyed, but she still hesitantly asked, "Doctor, is the medicine you prescribed expensive?" "My family is quite poor. I can't afford it if it's too expensive." Tang Xiu said, "It's not that expensive. It's only a few dozen yuan for 1 dose." Upon hearing it, the middle-aged woman finally felt relieved and gratefully said, "Thank you, doctor." Tan Xiu shook his head and massaged her for a few minutes. Then he let her wear her shoes and socks. After washing her hands, he wrote a prescription and handed it over to the middle-aged woman, saying, "Remember, take the medicine on time every day. Otherwise, your body will collapse." "I'll keep it in mind." The middle-aged woman nodded seriously. Standing at the side, Dai Xinyue's eyes were rippling with extraordinary splendor. She didn't expect that Tan Xiu's medical skills would be so amazing. He had consulted 3 patients in a row, and 2 of them were cured on the spot. As for the 3rd patient, after his foot massage, a trace of rosy color appeared on her pale face. Even the tone of her voice was a bit stronger than before. Next, as the middle-aged woman left, Tan Xiu called out. In the morning, Tang Xiu had consulted dozens of patients. A small number of them had their conditions cured on the spot, while the rest of the patients had their conditions alleviated after a simple treatment. For a moment, the entire Star City Chinese Medical Hospital's leaders, doctors, nurses, and many patients who came to the hospital for treatment heard that a divine doctor had come to the hospital. Inside the hospital's conference room, Li Hongji and dozens of doctors and experts of the hospital were sitting at the conference table, watching the large LCD screen on the innermost side. On the screen was the scene of Tan Xiu's consultation room. For 3.5 hours, no one left their seats even half a step, and no one spoke too much. Nearly all of their minds were focused on the screen, with shocked expressions appearing on their faces again and again. Huff! Li Hongji saw through the screen that Tan Xiu had successfully treated another patient. Finally, he heaved a deep sigh of relief. He turned to look at the dozens of doctors and experts in the conference room and asked in a deep voice, "How is it? I've personally hired a doctor. Is his level up to your discerning eyes?" The dozens of doctors and experts looked at each other in dismay as a forced smile was revealed on their faces. An old Chinese medical doctor forced a smile and said, "President, you must be joking. This young doctor isn't something that can enter our discerning eyes. His medical skills are really amazing. I've been a doctor for 40 to 50 years, and I've treated countless patients and seen a lot of diseases. I've even met a lot of powerful Chinese medical doctors. But I've never seen such a powerful Chinese medical doctor. He's simply a divine doctor. There's no need to doubt his attainments in medical skills. I'm even wondering if there's any disease in this world that he can't cure." Another old Chinese medical doctor sighed deeply. A smile appeared on the corner of Li Hongji's mouth as he looked at everyone nodding with satisfaction. Then he said with a smile, "As the saying goes, every generation has its own geniuses. We're getting old, and the future belongs to the younger generation. It's a pity that Tan Xiu's ambition isn't in the medical field. Otherwise, I'd really feel happy for the masses." The old Chinese medical doctor who spoke first said in a deep voice, "President, we must keep such a powerful young Chinese medical doctor no matter what. As long as he stays in our hospital, I'm sure our hospital's reputation will soar." "Do you think I don't want him to stay in our hospital?" Li Hongji said helplessly. "I've even persuaded him to stay in our hospital. Even when his mother was hospitalized in our hospital, I sent people to take good care of her, and only then did he agree to stay in our hospital. Furthermore, it's only for this summer vacation. After this summer vacation, he'll go to another city to study at a university. It'll be very difficult for him to come to our hospital in the future." Dozens of doctors and experts fell into silence. Li Hongji sighed. "Forget it. A forced melon won't be sweet. I'll try my best to make him come to our hospital more often in the future. Also, once the time of his consultation is confirmed, we'll announce it to the public. Tan Xiu's medical skills are superb. In the afternoon, you'll go to the inpatient department and pick some patients with serious or difficult-to-treat diseases. Tell their family members to send them to Tan Xiu's consultation room. If he can solve them, we'll immediately announce to the public that our hospital has a divine doctor." "All right." Everyone nodded. At noon, Tan Xiu stayed in the hospital to have lunch with Li Hongji personally accompanying him. Tan Xiu's assistant, Dai Xinyue, also joined them for lunch. However, Dai Xinyue was somewhat fearful to have lunch with the president. Lunch was over. Tan Xiu returned to the consultation room again. He knew that the consultation room was equipped with surveillance cameras, but he didn't care about it. Even when he was consulting and treating the patients, he deliberately aimed the camera at the scene of his treatment. In the afternoon, Tan Xiu treated a lot of seriously ill patients. Although they couldn't be cured immediately, the patients' conditions were alleviated. As long as the follow-up treatment was done according to his instructions, it wouldn't take long for those patients to recover. Tan Xiu had decided to continue his consultation at the Chinese Medical Hospital tomorrow. After all, he had promised Li Hongji that he would be delayed for so many days. If he continued to see patients for a few more days, he might not have time to come later when he got busy. The next afternoon, Tan Xiu was in the consultation room, teaching Dai Xinyue a lot of medical knowledge. As a matter of fact, Tan Xiu was very familiar with the human body's diseases. Even after returning to Earth, he had read a lot of Chinese medicine books, so a large number of diseases made his medical practice level advance by leaps and bounds. Knock, knock. The door was knocked, and a young man came to the consultation room with a middle-aged woman. When Tan Xiao saw the young man's appearance, his brows slightly wrinkled. He had seen this young man before. He was the one who ridiculed him in the bank outside the Chinese medical hospital the day before yesterday. How come it's you? The young man was also slightly startled when he saw Tan Xiao and asked in surprise. Tan Xiao lightly said, "Why can't it be me? It turns out that rich people can also get sick and look for doctors. What? Do you think I can't be a doctor because I don't have money?" Chapter 229. The young man's complexion changed as an awkward expression appeared on his face. He secretly regretted it. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have said such a cheap mouth the day before yesterday and offended a Chinese medical hospital's doctor. Moreover, this doctor was rumored to be a very powerful divine doctor. With an obsequious smile, the young man said, "I'm really sorry, doctor. I was too arrogant before. Please don't stoop to my level and stoop to my level. I heard yesterday that a powerful divine doctor came to this Chinese medical hospital. Every time he consults a patient, he can cure the disease." Tan Xiao wasn't a narrow-minded person. Upon hearing the young man's apology, he lightly nodded. He then looked at the middle-aged woman sitting in front of the consultation table and asked, "What's wrong with you?" "My waist hurts," said the middle-aged woman. Tan Xiao checked her pulse, which showed that her physical condition was good. Only her waist had symptoms of qi and blood congestion. Therefore, he got up and said, "Lie down on the bed over there. I'll give you a massage. You should have psoas strain." "All right." The middle-aged woman went to the bed and lay down on it according to Tan Xiao's instruction. Tan Xiao touched the woman's waist and shook his head, saying, "It seems that it's not just a simple psoas strain. You have a very serious lumbar disc herniation. The bones in your waist are deformed. I'm afraid it will be very painful if I want to correct your bones. Can you bear it?" "Can it be cured completely?" asked the middle-aged woman quickly. Tan Xiao nodded and said, "No problem, but it will take a few days of treatment. You have to come here at least twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening to maintain the time. 3 days should be enough for you." The middle-aged woman nodded seriously and said, "I can bear it. I'll have to trouble you, doctor." Tan Xiao nodded and massaged the middle-aged woman for a while. Then he began to exert more strength. His fingers even went through the middle-aged woman's waist bones. Again and again. Each time was stronger than the last. The middle-aged woman looked in pain. As Tan Xiao's strength increased, the pain on her face became more and more intense. Later on, she even screamed again and again. 10 minutes later, just as the middle-aged woman's endurance was about to reach her limit, Tan Xiao stopped. He said, "There's someone lying on the sickbed. The pain in your waist will be relieved soon." Subsequently, Tan Xiao consulted another patient. After the patient left, the middle-aged woman got up from the bed and stood on the ground to feel it. A look of surprise appeared on her face and she said, "It really doesn't hurt anymore. Also, my waist feels warm and comfortable." Tan Xiao said, "Remember my words. Meet me here in 3 days. If nothing unexpected happens, I will be here for the next 3 days." "All right. Thank you, doctor." The middle-aged woman said gratefully. Seeing that Tan Xiao was so powerful, the young man sincerely admired him. He said to Tan Xiao, "Doctor, thank you so much. My mother has a protruding lumbar disc for several years, and she often falls asleep from the pain. If you can cure her completely, I'll give you as much money as you want." Tan Xiao was stunned and immediately said, "Is your family very rich?" The young man hesitated and said, "Not too rich, but it's much better than the average family." Tan Xiao said, "If that's the case, then do more good deeds in the future. Consider it as a thank you." "Good deeds?" The young man stared blankly. He originally intended to give the money to Tan Xiao, but the latter stuffed it back. He could feel that Tan Xiao's words were absolutely from the bottom of his heart. For a moment, he was secretly ashamed of his own superficiality and arrogance. At the inpatient department, accompanied by the inpatient department's leader, Li Hongji came to a VIP ward. When he saw the patient and the hospital's doctor, Sun Wenjing, he immediately asked, "Why are you here?" Upon seeing the arrival of the president and the inpatient department's leader, Sun Wenjing quickly said, "President, I've finished my work there, so I came to see my mother." Li Hongji was surprised and asked, "This patient is your mother?" Sun Wenjing nodded and said, "Yes." Li Hongji asked, "What's her illness?" Sun Wenjing bitterly said, "Middle-stage liver cancer, and she's receiving treatment in the hospital." Middle-stage liver cancer? Li Hongji secretly sighed inwardly. It was possible to cure it if it was the early stage of cancer. But after the cancer cells had spread, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to cure it. He wanted to comfort Sun Wenjing, but he didn't know what to say. He secretly shook his head and said, "Take good care of your mother. If you're too busy with your work in the hospital, I'll give you a holiday." Sun Wenjing shook her head and said, "Thank you, President. I have a lot of family members, so it won't affect my work." Li Hongji nodded and was about to leave when he suddenly recalled something. A strange expression suddenly appeared on his face as he said, "Your mother's illness is very difficult to cure. How about you take her to see Tan Xiu?" Tan Xiu? Sun Wenjing stared blankly for a moment before her expression changed. In the past 2 days, there was a rumor about a divine doctor in the hospital's outpatient department. She inquired about it and learned that the widely rumored divine doctor was Tan Xiu. Now, she deeply regretted that she had judged people by their appearance and refused to be Tan Xiu's assistant. However, she still didn't believe Li Hongji's words. She didn't believe that Tan Xiu could cure her mother who was in the middle stage of cancer. Moreover, she didn't give Tan Xiu face before. She would die of embarrassment if she went to beg Tan Xiu now. Li Hongji looked at Sun Wenjing's expression and guessed her thoughts. He lightly said, "Go and try it. Tan Xiu's medical skills are very good. Do you still remember what I told you? His medical skills are better than mine. He can cure many strange diseases that I can't cure. Maybe he really has a way to treat patients in the middle stage of liver cancer. If you don't want to lose face, you can ask someone else in your family to take your mother to see him." "President, is he really as good as the rumors say?" Sun Wenjing hesitated. "Very good," Li Hongji said. "The reason why I asked you to take your mother to see him is because of my own selfishness. I'm expecting him to create a miracle in the medical field." Sun Wenjing's expression kept changing. Finally, a firm look appeared on her face as she said with all seriousness, "President, I'll take my mother to see him now." Li Hongji nodded and said, "Go. He has a good character. I think he won't care about what you did before when facing the patients." Sun Wenjing revealed an awkward expression again. She lowered her head and didn't speak. Time fleeted by. It was almost lunchtime, but there was already a long queue outside. Tan Xiu felt a bit of a headache. He didn't expect that there would be so many patients today. He had treated 40 to 50 people in the morning. The number of people waiting outside was probably far more than this number. He hesitated for a moment. Then he turned to look at Dai Xinyue and said, "Go outside and ask who has the most urgent disease. I need to rest after treating 3 more patients. The consultation time in the afternoon is 2 p.m. Sun Wenjing complied and walked out. Quickly, the 3 patients with urgent diseases were taken to the consultation room. After Tan Xiu's treatment, one of them was cured on the spot, while the other 2's condition also improved. "Excuse me." Just as Tan Xiu was about to take off his white coat and go to the cafeteria to have his meal, a noisy voice came from outside. As the crowd made way, 4 or 5 patients or their family members came to the consultation room with silk banners in their hands. The one at the front was the first family member of Tan Xiu's patient, Yang Xinyu. "What are you doing?" Tan Xiu looked at the silk banners and then looked at the 5 people with a surprised look on his face. "Divine Dr. Tang, you're a highly respected divine doctor, so we're embarrassed to give you a red envelope. We also know that you don't care about money. Therefore, a family member of a patient contacted me when he learned that you were the one who cured my wife. Each of us will give you a silk banner to express our respect and gratitude to you. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, I'm a doctor now. It's my job to heal the wounded and rescue the dying. You guys, forget it. I'll accept this silk banner. Thank you for your kindness. Yang Xinyu and the others immediately revealed a smile. They expressed their deep gratitude and then left. Put it away. Tan Xiu said to Dai Xinyu, aren't we going to hang it on the wall? Dai Xinyu was surprised. No need. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, the patients and their family members sent the silk banners to express their gratitude. It's good that we received it. We don't need to care about these external things. Dai Xinyu nodded repeatedly with a face full of worship and respect. Ever since she followed Tan Xiu, her medical level had advanced by leaps and bounds in just a couple of days. She had learned too many things. She even hoped that it would continue like this. She had an idol. Her idol was her grandpa, a relatively famous old Chinese medicine practitioner. It was because her grandpa had healed the wounded and rescued the dying all his life. But in all fairness, she believed that her grandpa's medical skills were inferior to Tan Xiu's, and the gap was too big. So, her new idol was Tan Xiu. In her heart, Tan Xiu was already her teacher. Half an hour later, at the Chinese medical hospital's cafeteria, Tan Xiu and Dai Xinyu were eating and chatting about medical issues. Tan Xiu liked Dai Xinyu, who was diligent, studious, and particularly humble. He felt that this girl was indeed good. Therefore, he was willing to teach her as much as possible what he knew. In these 2 days, he had seen too many patients and their families in the hospital. Seeing them arrive with a sad face and leave in high spirits, his heart was filled with a sense of satisfaction. He found that since he returned to Earth, his mentality was completely different from when he was in the immortal world. The current him, he was full of passion for life and full of fighting spirit, whether it was to make money, take care of his family, or for cultivation. He felt that this kind of life was a kind of happiness. Excuse me. A woman's voice came. Tan Xiu stopped explaining and turned his head to look. His face suddenly turned cold, because he saw that the person who came was Sun Wenjing. Today's 4th chapter has been released. I'm weekly asking for a monthly vote. There will be a big release tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Brothers and sisters, I'm looking forward to it. Quiet Night is going to write all night tonight. Please give me some encouragement, brothers and sisters. I'm very grateful. Chapter 230. Sun Wenjing's expression was a bit awkward. But for her mother's sake, she still gritted her teeth even if she had to make a fool of herself. She even squeezed out a smile and said, Dr. Tang, I'm really sorry before. My vision was too narrow and I judged people by their appearance. I also heard that your medical skills and medical ethics are as good as yours, so please don't lower yourself to my level. A trace of surprise was revealed in Tan Xiu's eyes after hearing it. He thought that Sun Wenjing came to look for trouble again, but it turned out that she came to apologize. As the saying goes, one should never hit a smiling face. Since the other party came to apologize sincerely, he didn't have a cold face anymore, so he waved his hand and said, let's forget about the previous matter. Just pay attention to it later. Sun Wenjing secretly felt relieved and said, I'll definitely remember this lesson and will never judge people by their appearance again. I'll face everything with a humble attitude. Since you've apologized, let's go eat. Tan Xiu said. Sun Wenjing forced a smile and said, Dr. Tang, I actually came to you because I have something to ask of you. What is it? Tan Xiu frowned and asked. Actually, I've been in a bad mood lately because my mother is ill and is hospitalized in our hospital, said Sun Wenjing. Her illness? What illness? Tan Xiu was puzzled and asked. She's in the middle stage of liver cancer and the cancer cells have spread, said Sun Wenjing bitterly. What do you mean? Tan Xiu raised his brows. You want me to treat her? Sun Wenjing nodded and said, everyone says that you're a divine doctor. Even President Li is ashamed of his inferiority. He told me that if there's anyone in the world who can save my mother, it must be you. Furthermore, President Li also has his own selfish motives. He wants to witness a miracle in the medical field. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he slowly shook his head and said, I'm not as amazing as the rumors say. I'm afraid I can't do anything about your mother's illness. I'm sorry to disappoint you and President Li, Sun Wenjing begged. Dr. Tang, can you try it? Can you try it? I'll try to satisfy you no matter what your request is. We'll also fully cooperate with any of your requests. My mother brought up the four of us on her own. In her later years, she was busy taking care of the children for us. It could be said that she did not enjoy much happiness. Now that she has cancer, I really don't want to see her leave us in the pain of the disease. Please. Dai Xinyue looked at the pleading Sun Wenjing and then at Tan Xiu. She was kind-hearted and hesitated for a moment before saying in a low voice, Dr. Tang, please give it a try. The old man is very pitiful. Even if he can't be cured, this doctor won't blame you. Tan Xiu secretly sighed in his heart. Although he did not like Sun Wenjing, her filial piety still moved him. After a moment of silence, he slowly said, 3 requests. Sun Wenjing's eyes lit up and she quickly said, please tell me. Tan Xiu said, first, no matter if I can cure your mother or not, this matter must not be spread out. I will also ask Li Hongji to keep it a secret. I can do it. Sun Wenjing nodded heavily. Tan Xiu said, second, prepare 100,000 yuan and donate it to the hospital's patients who have no money. As for who to donate it to, find it yourself. No problem, said Sun Wenjing without hesitation. Tan Xiu said again, third, get your mother discharged from the hospital and go home. I'll come to your house every night. If you need any medical tools, I'll tell you to buy them. Sun Wenjing hesitated for a moment and asked, how long do you need to treat her, Dr. Tang? My time is limited. If she can't be cured in 10 days, then there's no need to continue the treatment. Tan Xiu said. Sun Wenjing thought for a few seconds and said, I'll handle the discharge procedure for my mother this afternoon. We'll wait for you at home tonight. I'll send my address to your mailbox in a text message. Alright. Tan Xiu told her his cell number and then sent her away. Dai Xinyue curiously looked at Tan Xiu and whispered, Dr. Tang, I haven't been in contact with you for a long time, but I can feel that you're a very confident person. Since you've asked that doctor to take her mother home, does that mean that he can cure her mother's cancer? You're thinking too much. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. I really didn't think too much. Dai Xinyue shook her head and said, I really admire your medical skills. In my opinion, you're simply omnipotent in the medical field. I've calculated that from yesterday to today, a total of 168 patients have come to you for consultation and treatment. Among them, you've cured 57 of them on the spot, and the others have also been greatly improved. I believe it won't be long before their conditions will be as good as before. You remember it so clearly? Tan Xiu was surprised. Actually, I'm most interested in numbers. Dai Xinyue chuckled and said, when I took the college entrance test, I was going to apply for a major related to mathematics in a university. But my grandpa didn't agree and insisted that I go to medical school. Therefore, I took mathematics as one of my hobbies. Also, I'm very good at memorizing numbers. I see. Tan Xiu smiled. Since you're so confident in me, I'm afraid I'll disappoint you if I can't cure her mother's illness. Don't worry. I'll do my best to treat her and strive to maintain your admiration for me. An extraordinary splendor flashed in Dai Xinyue's eyes, followed by a crafty glint. She smiled and said, if you can cure the doctor's mother, I'll worship you as my master and learn medical skills from you in the future. Worship her as a master? Learn medical skills? A strange expression appeared in Tan Xiu's eyes. He did accept some apprentices, but those apprentices only learned cultivation from him. This was the first time someone proposed to worship him as a master and learn medical skills from him. Suddenly, his interest was piqued. He imagined that he would accept an apprentice and eventually become a master in the medical field. That would be really interesting. Looking at the smile on Dai Xinyue's beautiful face, Tan Xiu nodded and said, I've never thought about accepting apprentices in this field before. If I can cure Sun Wenjing's mother, it will prove that my medical skills are good. At that time, I'll accept you as my apprentice and teach you my medical skills. Dai Xinyue was just probing. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, she was pleasantly surprised and said, "Thank you, teacher. I believe you can do it." Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, "Don't rush to call me now. Wait until I cure the patient. I'll change the way I address you at that time." "Change the way I address you? Change the way you address me?" asked Dai Xinyue curiously. "Master," Tan Xiu said. Dai Xinyue's eyes lit up. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. She was a smart girl. How could she not understand the deep meaning of the word, master? A person, especially a modern person, might have many teachers, but a master was very rare. Only those who could truly worship a master would be able to get the true inheritance. "Hurry up and eat. I still have to see patients in the afternoon," Tan Xiu said with a smile. In the evening, after consulting the last patient, Tan Xiu hurriedly left the hospital. Dai Xinyue was like a shadow, following Tan Xiu all the way back to Southgate Town. "Master, do you live here?" Dai Xinyue's eyes were full of shock as she toured the villa. Tan Xiu said with a smile, "You followed me in. If this wasn't my home, wouldn't others have already called the police to arrest me? All right, you sit on the sofa for a while. I'll go get something." After coming to the second floor, Tan Xiu took out the body refining liquid he had refined. He knew about cancer, and the body refining liquid would definitely have a magical effect in treating cancer. On one hand, the body refining liquid could strengthen the physical strength of cancer patients, and on the other hand, it could also destroy the cancer cells in the patient's body. However, the body refining liquid's effect was too strong for ordinary people to bear. Therefore, he needed to dilute the body refining liquid and then bring it to Sun Wenjing's home. Furthermore, the silver needles he brought from the hospital would also be of great use. The silver needles combined with the body refining liquid would yield twice the result with half the effort. As Tan Xiu returned to the first floor, he found Gu Yin standing in front of Dai Xinyue, looking at her with a curious expression. "Yin," Tan Xiu called out. Gu Yin turned around and immediately ran after seeing Tan Xiu. She grabbed Tan Xiu's hand and said, "Master, she said she's also your disciple, is it true?" Tan Xiu said, "More or less. She hasn't formally acknowledged me as her master, but I'm ready to accept her as my disciple." Gu Yin asked, "Are you going to teach her a cultivation technique?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "What she'll learn from me is different from you. What she wants to learn is medicine. She wants to be a very powerful Chinese medicine grandmaster." Gu Yin suddenly understood and said with a smile, "Master, I like people who study medicine the most. People are very uncomfortable when they're sick. If they can cure the patients, it's a good deed." After saying that, Gu Yin followed Tan Xiu to Dai Xinyue. She raised her small face and said, "Big sister, my name is Gu Yin. You can call me Yin later. Since we're senior and junior sisters, you can tell me if anyone bullies you in the future. I'll help you vent your anger. That's right, as your senior sister, I haven't given you a gift yet." What? Dai Xinyue was dumbfounded as she looked at Gu Yin, who turned and ran away. Her mouth twitched a few times. Let her call that little girl senior sister? What kind of joke was this? Tan Xiu calmly said, "She's right. You're my disciple late, so you can only be my junior sister. You haven't formally acknowledged me as your master yet, so you still have a chance to withdraw." Dai Xinyue asked with a strange expression, "Master, she? Senior sister just said cultivation technique. What does it mean? Is it because you're teaching us something different?" "It's different," Tan Xiu calmly said. "You don't need to ask about what I'm teaching your senior sister and senior brother. If you perform well in the future, I'll tell you and maybe teach you. But if I'm not satisfied with you, you can only learn medical skills from me at most." Dai Xinyue suppressed her curiosity and nodded, "I'll keep it in mind, master." While speaking, Gu Yin returned to the living room with a scroll painting in her hand. She handed it to Dai Xinyue and said, "Eldest junior sister, I don't have anything good to give you now, so I'll give you a painting I drew. Please don't dislike it." Chapter 231. Dai Xinyue shook her head and said with a smile, "How could that be? I like whatever senior sister gives me." After saying that, she gently untied the rope tied to it. When she saw the painting, she was slightly stunned, and her eyes revealed a look of surprise. She thought that with Gu Yin's age, even if she could paint, she wouldn't be good. However, this painting was very good. It was a landscape painting with green mountains and flowing water. There was also a very familiar villa at the foot of the mountain. After carefully thinking about it, she realized that the villa in this painting was the villa where she lived. Good painting. Dai Xinyue sighed sincerely. Tan Xiao also saw the painting and was surprised. A trace of astonishment was revealed in his eyes as he asked with a smile, you copied the background of this painting, right? I can see that this villa is ours. Gu Yin said with a smile, Master, I usually don't attend classes and find something to kill time when I'm bored. I found that painting is very interesting. Tan Xiao said with a smile, I'll teach you how to paint when I have time later. Alright. Gu Yin nodded with a smile. Where's Mom? Tan Xiao asked. Why isn't she at home? Gu Yin said, Grandma went to the restaurant and will come back later. Tan Xiao said, I'm going out of town in a few days. I'll give you 2 days of leave and take you with me. Gu Yin was pleasantly surprised. Really? Where are we going? I'll take you to see your senior sister, said Tan Xiao. Gu Yin asked curiously, Master, I have a senior sister? Why haven't I heard about it before? Tan Xiao didn't answer her question and went to the kitchen instead. He saw that the housekeeper was cooking dinner, so he decided to go to Sun Wenjing's house after dinner. Star City, Purple Gold Garden upscale residential area. The 160 square meters house was exquisitely decorated and had high-end furniture arranged in an orderly manner. At this moment, Sun Wenjing was sitting on the sofa, facing the questioning of her 2 brothers and sister. Her expression was particularly gloomy. I told you that Tan Xiao is the most powerful doctor in our Chinese medical hospital. He's even called a divine doctor. Even the president of our Star City Chinese Medical Hospital laments his inferiority in medical skills. If he can't cure our mother's illness, then no one in this world can. So, you don't need to say anything more. Let him try, Sun Wenjing said with a serious face. Sun Jianhai was the deputy director of the Star City Finance Bureau. As the eldest son of the family, he frowned deeply as he looked at his younger sister, Sun Wenjing, and said, Did Li Hongji really say that? Even his medical skills are inferior to that Tan Xiao? Sun Wenjing said, That's right. Originally, Director Li had arranged for me to be Tan Xiao's assistant, but I judged a book by its cover. I thought that even if his medical skills were great, he wouldn't be that great. But now I know how wrong I was. He is very powerful. 30 to 40% of the patients who come to our hospital for treatment are cured by him on the spot. The other patients' conditions have been greatly alleviated after his treatment. As far as I know, yesterday was the first day he came to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital to provide medical services. But today, he received more than 20 silk banners from the patient's family members. More than 20? Sun Jianhai showed a shocked expression, and even Sun Jianjun and Sun Wenmin were surprised. They all knew what it meant for the patient's family members to send silk banners to the doctor. It showed that the patient's family members were sincerely grateful to the doctor. Sun Wenjing said, There's something you may not know. There was once a mother who took her 6 or 7 years old sick child to all the major hospitals in the country. She tried both Chinese and Western medicine, but none of the doctors could cure her daughter's strange illness. As a result, it was Tan Xiao who accidentally came and cured the child's strange illness. So, when Dr. Tang comes, don't treat him with contempt. The last chance to cure our mother lies in him. Sun Jianhai said with a deep voice, If he can really cure our mother, I'll do anything. Second brother, go get 200,000 yuan. If he can cure our mother, consider this as a thank you gift. You're not allowed to give it. Sun Wenjing angrily said. Sun Jianhai stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression, What do you mean? Sun Wenjing said, Tan Xiao promised to treat our mother, but he gave me 3 conditions. One of them is that we must donate 100,000 yuan to the hospital's needy patients. But he doesn't want money. This, Sun Jianhai and the others were dumbfounded. Living in this era, money seemed to have become the yardstick to measure everything. How could there be such a noble and unquestionable integrity young man in this era? Sun Wenmin asked, Big sis, what are the other two conditions Dr. Tang mentioned? In an instant, Sun Jianhai and Sun Jianjun also looked curious. Sun Wenmin said, one of the conditions is that I must bring our mother home. He must come to our home to treat our mother. The other condition is that no matter whether he cured our mother's cancer or not, our whole family can't tell anyone about this. We can't tell anyone about this. Sun Jianhai slowly said, I understand his concerns. Liver cancer is in the middle stage, and the world's medical level is still unable to cure it. He doesn't want to cause a sensation. I didn't expect that this young man has such superb medical skills, yet he's still so low-key. Suddenly, I'm looking forward to it. Sun Wenmin said, Big brother, I'll pay 100,000 yuan. Whether he can cure our mother or not, I'm willing to donate 100,000 yuan to the needy families in the Chinese medical hospital. Sun Jianhai revealed a smile and nodded silently. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. When Sun Wenjing dashed to the door and opened it, she saw Tan Xiu and Dai Xinyue standing outside. Dr. Tang, Dr. Dai, I'm sorry to trouble you. Sun Wenjing said politely. Tan Xiu shook his head. After entering the hall, he saw Sun Wenjing's siblings. After a brief introduction by Sun Wenjing, he exchanged a few words with them and then said, Where's the patient? Take me to see her condition. Sun Wenjing said, Come with me. In a spacious and bright room, Sun Wenjing's mother was leaning on the bed and watching TV. Upon seeing her children coming with Tan Xiu and Dai Xinyue, she immediately sat up straight and said with a smile, Son, is this the Dr. Tang you and President Li mentioned? Sun Wenjing said with a smile, He's Dr. Tang, Mum. Tan Xiu faintly smiled and looked at the old woman's slightly pale face. Then, he said with a gentle tone, Old lady, I'm going to check your body first. I'm afraid it'll be very painful when I treat you. Can you endure it? The old woman said with a smile, Don't worry. This old woman has suffered all kinds of hardships in her life. Even my body has been operated on a lot of times. I can endure the pain. A lot of times? Tan Xiu asked with a puzzled expression. The old woman said with a smile, I've been sick before and had several operations. Also, a woman should be in the most pain when she gives birth, right? I can endure that kind of pain. Don't worry, Dr. Tang. Tan Xiu suddenly understood. He nodded with a smile and said, The greatest person in this world is a mother. This sentence made a lot of sense. This is also why filial piety is the most important of all virtues. Your children are really good. They're really good. After saying that, he grabbed the old woman's wrist and felt her pulse. He immediately found that there were indeed a lot of toxins in her body. These toxins should be what the medical community called cancer cells. Moreover, the toxins in her blood were the most. Dr. Tang, how's your examination? Sun Wenjing saw Tan Xiu take back his hand and quickly asked nervously. Tan Xiu said, I can't guarantee that I can cure her, but the hope is very high. Go and get me a basin of warm water and a few clean towels. You too, come and take off the old woman's clothes, leaving only her underwear. Warm water. Towels. Sun Wenjing and the others quickly got ready. The old woman's coat was also taken off and she lay flat on the bed. Tan Xiu said, Go and pour half a cup of warm water. Remember, it's best to keep the temperature between 30 and 40 degrees. Alright. Sun Wenjing quickly poured the warm water and handed it to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu took out the bottle of diluted body refining liquid from his pocket and poured 3 drops into the warm water. Then, he handed it to Sun Wenjing and let the old woman drink it. The Sun siblings didn't question what Tan Xiu put in the water for the old woman to drink. They just stood at the side and watched quietly with complete trust. Tan Xiu said, You'd better hold down the old woman's arms and legs and let her bite the towel in an instant. Otherwise, she'll move her body because of the severe pain when I give her the acupuncture treatment. All right. The Sun brothers followed Tan Xiu's instructions. The old woman drank half a cup of warm water mixed with body refining liquid. A few minutes later, her body began to tremble slightly. As time went by, the pain became more and more intense. If it weren't for her 4 children holding down her arms and legs, she would have curled up and twitched. Tan Xiu looked at the sweat overflowing from the old woman's pores as her skin gradually turned red. He immediately took out the silver needles and quickly pierced them into 9 major acupoints on her body. After doing all this, Tan Xiu quietly stood at the side, waiting for the old woman's reaction. The old woman's body trembled more and more. The pain made her faint several times and wake up several times. The 2 brothers, Sun Jianhai and Sun Jianjun, looked extremely ugly and distressed. As for the 2 sisters, Sun Wenjing and Sun Wenmin, their eyes were constantly flowing out. Tan Xiu looked at the performance of the 4 of them and secretly admired them. Having such filial children, the old woman's life was worth it. What's that smell? Sun Jianjun suddenly frowned and asked as his nose twitched. Tan Xiu said, "It's the stench." Sun Jianjun was confused. The stench? Where's the stench coming from? My mom's body. Tan Xiu explained, the cancer cells in her body are toxins in my opinion. Toxins that are harmful to the body. Mixed with her sweat, it will give off a foul smell. You must endure it and make sure that she lies flat. Otherwise, if the silver needles on her body are moved, it will be very dangerous. Chapter 232. The Su siblings were pleasantly surprised upon hearing it. If the discharged cancer cells were really discharged, then their mother's condition might really be cured. Half an hour later, the old lady's convulsions were greatly reduced, and the smell emitted from her body was nauseating. A black viscous substance was spread all over her body, including her face and hair. Let her go. You wait for a few minutes and clean her body. After saying that, Tan Xiu pulled out the 9 silver needles from the old lady's body. After disinfecting the silver needles with alcohol cotton, he turned around and walked out of the room. Dai Xingyue followed Tan Xiu out of the room and curiously asked, "Master, what kind of treatment method is this? Just a few drops of medicine? You just inserted 9 silver needles, and then it's over?" Tan Xiu said, "The medicinal liquid I gave her is very special. Apart from me, there are only a few people in this world who can make it. As for the 9 silver needles, I just sealed the important acupoints all over her body to prevent the circulation of toxins and reduce the discharged amount." Dai Xinyu asked, "How is the effect?" Tan Xiu said, "I haven't diagnosed her yet, so how would I know the effect? Just wait. Wait for her children to clean her body, and then I'll give her a diagnosis." Shortly after, Sun Jianhai and Sun Jianjun came out of the room. Sun Jianhai looked at Tan Xiu sitting on the sofa in the living room. He hesitated and asked, "Dr. Tang, my mother, she..." Tan Xiu interrupted him and shook his head, "I don't know. I'll know the specific effect after I've examined her. You don't need to be anxious. Sit down and wait." "All right." Sun Jianhai nodded. After taking a seat in front of Tang Xiu, he curiously asked, "Dr. Tang, have we met somewhere before? Why do I feel that you look familiar? Don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to be friends with you. I have a specialty, that is, I'm good at remembering people. I've definitely seen you before." Tan Xiu said with a smile, "I'm also good at remembering people, but I don't remember seeing you before." Sun Jianhai couldn't help laughing and said, "Maybe I remembered it wrong. However, for someone as young as you to be able to become an on-duty specialist of our Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, you're truly a young hero." Tan Xiu said, "I'm just a nominal doctor in the Chinese Medical Hospital and rarely come out to see patients. I'm not an official doctor there either." "What?" Sun Jianhai was surprised. "Didn't you start working yesterday? How could this be?" Tan Xiu said, "I'm a student, and I just finished my college entrance exam. It just so happened that he had time during the summer vacation, and it was difficult for him to refuse Li Hongji's hospitality, so he agreed to work at the Chinese Medical Hospital. When college starts in September, I'm afraid I'll have to go to Shanghai University to study." Sun Jianhai looked at Tan Xiu in disbelief. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that Tan Xiu, with his superb medical skills, was actually a student who had just finished his college entrance examination. After hesitating for a moment, he curiously asked, "Dr. Tang, your medical skills are so good, Why don't you apply for a medical college or some other university? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I never thought that I'd be a doctor in this life. I have a lot of things to do, whether it's my studies or my own small business, I'm always busy. Sun Jianhai was surprised and asked, You're also doing business? Can you tell me what kind of business you're doing? Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he shook his head and said, It's just some cosmetics and health products business. The company has just been established not long ago, so it's not convenient for me to tell you the name. Sun Jianhai nodded. Suddenly, his complexion greatly changed as he exclaimed, I remember now. No wonder I felt that you looked familiar before. You're Tan Xiu. Yes, that's the name. You're the legal representative of the Magnificent Tang Corporation, so you're the big boss of the company, right? How did you know? Tan Xiu was surprised. Are you really the big boss of the Magnificent Tang Corporation? Sun Jianhai was shocked. Seeing that Sun Jianhai had guessed it, Tan Xiu no longer concealed it. Sun Jianhai forced a smile and said, You're young and promising. I'm the deputy director of the Finance Bureau. A while ago, I had a drink with the director of the Industry and Commerce Bureau, my old classmate, and he mentioned you. Out of curiosity, I asked for a copy of your company's notes. I've seen your name and your photo in that document. I really never thought that the dignified divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital would turn out to be the big boss of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. At the side, Dai Xinyue looked at Tan Xiu with a dumbfounded expression. Although she knew that Tan Xiu's family was very rich and could even live in the most upscale villa complex in Star City like Southgate Town, she never thought that Tan Xiu turned out to be the big boss of the Magnificent Tang Corporation who had recently risen in fame. Heavens! What kind of powerful master did I worship? At this moment, Dai Xinyue secretly rejoiced. She was glad that she had the fate to become Tan Xiu's assistant. She was even more glad that she proposed to worship him as her master. With such a master, many people would probably wake up laughing even in their dreams. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile, Your friend from the Industry and Commerce Bureau leaked my information. Should I sue him? Sun Jianhai was startled. An awkward expression immediately appeared on his face as he quickly said, Dr. Tang, please don't. The reason why he told me is that we have a very close relationship. We grew up together and were classmates since childhood. Later on, we entered the system and advanced and retreated together. Had it been someone else, he would never have told me. It's all right. I was just joking. Tan Xiu said with a smile. However, please tell your classmate not to reveal my situation to anyone else. Although I'm the Magnificent Tang Corporation's boss, I don't like to be in the limelight. I'll leave the company's affairs to the general manager, Kang Xia. I won't care about it. Sun Jianhai nodded and said, I'll definitely convey your words. Quickly, the two sisters, Sun Wenjing and Sun Wenmin, helped their mother take a bath and change into clean clothes. Sun Wenjing came to the living room and said with a strange expression, Dr. Tang, would you like to come in and have a look? What's wrong with her? Tan Xiu got up and asked. She said that she feels very comfortable. It's like she suddenly became 10 years younger, said Sun Wenjing. Although her limbs are still weak, the pain caused by the cancer cells has completely disappeared. Tan Xiu nodded and entered the room. He then saw the old lady leaning on the bed with a rosy complexion. Old lady, I'll check your pulse and check your physical condition. Thank you, Dr. Tang. I feel much better now, said the old lady gratefully. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. After checking the old lady's pulse and using his spiritual sense to observe, he found that 2/3 of the cancer cells in the old lady's body had been removed, leaving only 1/3 remaining in her body. Moreover, her physical fitness was not inferior to a young man at this time. I never thought that the body refining liquid would have such a great effect on ordinary people. If I were to sell it myself, I'm afraid a drop of it can be sold for tens of millions, right? Tang Xiu secretly shook his head. His action, however, made the Sun's siblings tense up. How is it, Dr. Tang? Asked Sun Jianhai quickly. 2/3 of the cancer cells in her body have been killed and discharged from her body, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I'm afraid the remaining 1/3 of the cancer cells need to be removed slowly. So, I'll leave this bottle of potion for you. Follow my previous method and mix it with water for her to take 3 drops every day. After this bottle of potion is used up, I think the cancer cells in her body will be completely removed. The Sun siblings were immediately overjoyed after hearing it. But what, Dr. Tang? Asked Sun Wenjing. But you must be mentally prepared. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Once the cancer cells in her body are completely removed and she returns to a normal person, I'm afraid she can live for at least another 20 years. You 4 siblings must do your best to be filial to the old lady in the future. 20 years? Sun Wenjing stammered. One must know that her mother was now nearly 80 years old. If she lived for another 20 years, wouldn't she be able to live to 100 years old? At least 20 years, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Sun Wenjing gulped down her saliva and looked at the bottle handed by Tan Xiu. After hesitating for a moment, she asked, Dr. Tang, may I ask, this is my secret potion. It's very difficult for outsiders to get their hands on it, said Tan Xiu. Moreover, it's also very difficult to concoct this kind of potion. Therefore, I don't want you to spread the news of me treating your mother. Otherwise, it will bring me great trouble. Absolutely not. The Sun siblings quickly promised. Sun Wenjing spoke again. Dr. Tang, about the house visit fee, forget about the money. Tang Xiu waved his hand and said, just keep in mind the conditions I gave you. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Remember, if you're worried about the old lady's condition in a few days, take her to another hospital for an examination. Another hospital? The Sun siblings instantly understood Tan Xiu's meaning and nodded in agreement. Then, they left the Sun family's residence. Tan Xiu and Dai Xinyue, who had yet to recover from the shock, walked out of the gate of the community. Standing on the roadside, Tan Xiu said, All right, you've seen the treatment today. As for the effect, you just need to pay more attention to it. Also, you must not tell anyone about me treating that old lady's cancer. I need you to give me a guarantee. Only then did Dai Xinyue come back to her senses. She seriously promised, Rest assured, master. I'll never tell anyone about it. Tan Xiu nodded and said, I'm afraid I'll only stay in the Chinese medical hospital for 3 days at most. Then I won't go there anymore. As for teaching you medical skills, you must study it seriously in the next 3 days. I'll teach you when I have time later. Upon hearing it, Dai Xinyue looked a bit disappointed. She nodded and said, I know you're a busy man, master. Don't worry. I'll be very serious when I learn from you. Chapter 233. In the next few days, Tan Xiu had been giving medical services in the Chinese medical hospital, treating more and more patients. Therefore, his fame spread at an extremely fast speed. Not only in Star City, but also in other parts of the country. Moreover, because Tan Xiu had solved a lot of difficult and complicated diseases in the past few days in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, his reputation in the medical field rose. Even the presidents of several large hospitals in the imperial capital and Shanghai contacted Li Hongji to inquire about Tan Xiu's situation. In the evening, as Tan Xiu left the Chinese Medical Hospital's consultation building, he saw Long Zhengyu leaning on the car door, looking at him with a beaming smile with his arms crossed. Why are you here? Asked Tan Xiu curiously. Long Zhengyu patted the car door and said with a smile, The college entrance test results will come out tomorrow, so I'm here to celebrate in advance. That's right, I heard that you've received hundreds of silk banners in the past 5 to 6 days in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital? That's right, Tan Xiu said with a smile. But those things are useless. It's just a token of appreciation from the patients and their families. I've handed it over to Li Hongji. He can deal with it as he sees fit. Long Zhengyu raised his thumbs up and praised, To be honest, I really want to thank my good-for-nothing younger brother. The best thing he did in his life was to bring you to me. Anyways, let's go. I've booked the presidential suite of the Long's dining hall. It just so happens that Bai Tao and Chu Yi are also here. Let's drink till we're drunk tonight. Just as Tan Xiu was about to go to the front seat, Long Zhengyu pulled him. He took out a portfolio from the driver's seat and stuffed it to Tan Xiu, saying, "You drive. Let me test your driving skills." "I haven't gotten my driver's license yet, and you want me to drive?" Tan Xiu was confused. "Open the portfolio and have a look," Long Zhengyu said with a smile. Tan Xiu opened the portfolio and found his driver's license inside, along with 2 keys. "What's the meaning of this?" Tan Xiu asked while holding the keys. Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "I've given you a house, so it can be considered as providing for you, right? Giving a house but not a car, this was called not knowing how to do things. However, I don't know what kind of car you like, so I got a car similar to Ouyang Lulu's, which is also a couple model." "Range Rover." Tan Xiu was surprised. Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "It seems like you really know Ouyang Lulu's character." "That's right, the color was exactly the same as her car, white. It's comfortable to watch." The car is currently parked in the underground parking lot of the Long's dining hall. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, "You're just messing with me. Ouyang Lulu and I are innocent. However, I really like that car. Since you've taken care of me, it's only right that you give me a car. Let's go and have a drink. It's my treat tonight." Long Zhengyu smiled and said, "Since young Master Tang wants to bleed, then I won't be polite." Tan Xiu sat in the driver's seat and familiarized himself with the functions of the car. Then he started the car and drove out. At first, he was still not proficient in driving, but after a few minutes of adaptation he gradually became proficient. According to the traffic regulations, he drove to the underground parking lot of the Long's dining hall without violating the rules. Then he patted the steering wheel with satisfaction, nodded and said, "A good car is indeed a good car. Driving it is much better than the instructor's car." Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "You like my Maserati? How about I give it to you?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "Forget it. There's a strange smell in your car." "Strange smell?" Long Zhengyu was confused and said, "There's no strange smell. The perfume in my car is the world's best. A bottle is worth hundreds of thousands. Aside from the fragrance, how could there be any strange smell?" Tan Xiu said with a teasing tone, "Who knows how many women you've had sex with in this car? It would be strange if there's no strange smell. Let's go. Take me to see my car first." "You brat." Long Zhengyu was at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry as he got down from the front seat. Quickly, Long Zhengyu took Tan Xiu to a brand new white Land Rover SUV and said with a smile, "Since you haven't drunk yet, do you want to try driving it for a lap?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said with a smile, "Forget it. Anyway, isn't this license plate of yours too good? 3 6s, isn't it too ostentatious?" Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "This car was bought with your ID card, and the license plate was also done according to your ID card. 6 6 6, smooth, smooth. I think it's very good, not ostentatious at all." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "Let's go. Let's go upstairs and drink." Those 2 fellas ran to Star City again. "Is it because that matter has completely come to an end?" Long Zhengyu said while walking, "It's indeed completely over. 90% of the Zhang family's assets have been divided by us. As for the remaining 10%, except for the unimportant people of the Zhang family, the rest has been taken away by the bank. This time, our forces can be said to have eaten to their heart's content. The Bai family and the Chu family joined later, but they didn't get much. However, it can be said that these 2 families have spent their hard-earned capital and added several billion yuan, preparing to invest in the big project. In a few days, the people in charge of our forces will gather together and divide the shares." Tang Xiu said with a smile, "Although Bai Tao and Chu Yi are the juniors of big families, they don't have much of the rich playboy aura of those big families. Especially Chu Yi, he's very shrewd and reliable." That's right. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten that I still owe him money." Long Zhengyu was confused. "You owe him money? When did it happen?" "Chu Yi sent me a box of precious medicinal herbs," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I haven't given him the money yet. Forget it, let's not talk about it now. I'll give it to him after I get the money. In any case, he's also a rich man, so he doesn't lack money." "That's right. Long Zhengyu said with a smile. But, are you short of money recently? I met Kong Xia a few days ago and happened to bump into you. You called her and asked her to transfer you money. A few days ago? Tan Xiu suddenly understood. You mean the 20 million? That's right. Long Zhengyu nodded. Tan Xiu said, I need 20 million to buy some things. I only have a few million on me, so I can only ask Kong Xia for the money. Actually, I'm really poor. I'm so poor that I'm about to die. Young Master Long, you're young and have a lot of money. Can you give me some pocket money to spend? I don't want too much. If you have the nerve to give me 8 billion, I won't mind. Go to hell. Long Zhengyu cursed with a smile. The duo came to the presidential suite of the Long's dining hall amidst laughter. After seeing Bai Tao and Chu Yi, the four young people naturally gathered together and drank a lot of wine. Ring, ring, ring. Just as Tan Xiu drank the wine into his stomach, his mobile rang in his pocket. He took out his mobile and saw the caller ID. It turned out to be his mother. He immediately gestured to the others to leave. While walking outside, he picked up the phone and said with a smile, Mom, what's the matter? Su Lingyun's voice came from the phone with a tearful tone. Xiu. Can you come back? Your grandma is injured. I want you to accompany me back to see her. Grandma? A simple and kind face emerged in Tan Xiu's memory. Although thousands of years had passed, he could still clearly remember his grandma's appearance. He also remembered that when he was a child, she loved him the most, more than the two siblings of the Su family. Mom, don't be anxious. Tell me, what's going on? Isn't Grandma always in the countryside? How did she get injured? Tan Xiu asked. Su Lingyun said, I don't know the specific situation. It seems that someone bullied your grandma and beat her. It was my neighbor's second aunt who called me. They have now sent your grandma to the county hospital, but I don't know the specific situation. Mom, don't worry. I'll immediately rush back to Southgate Town. After picking you up, we'll go back to our hometown overnight. Believe me, Grandma will be fine as long as I'm here. All right. Su Lingyun replied. Tan Xiu hung up the phone and returned to the front of the Long Zhengyu trio. Then, he said with a deep tone, something happened in my hometown, so I'll leave now. After you're done, just put the bill on me. It seems that the Long's dining hall's member can put the bill on me. Tang Xiu, what happened? Long Zhengyu asked with a puzzled expression. Do you need our help? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, not for the time being. I'll contact you when the time comes. All right, I'll go first. Having said that, he picked up the portfolio and quickly left the suite. After arriving at the underground parking lot, he directly drove the Land Rover SUV back to Southgate Town, regardless of the alcohol he had just drunk. At this time, Su Lingyun was standing at the entrance of the villa with a worried expression. Seeing a car stop in front of her and Tan Xiu getting out of the car, she was immediately surprised and said, Son, where did you get this car? Also, when did you learn to drive? I went to the driving school to get my driver's license some time ago. I just got it today, said Tan Xiu. This car is a gift from a friend. Mom, pack your things. We'll go back to our hometown overnight. You'll drive me back? Su Lingyun said. Can you do it? Mom, I got my driver's license, so driving is naturally not a problem, said Tan Xiu. I've packed my luggage. Go and pack your things. I'm afraid we'll have to stay in our hometown for some time. Su Lingyun nodded and said. After being silent for a moment, Tan Xiu dialed Kong Xia's cell number. When Kong Xia picked up, Tan Xiu said, Can you help me? It's a private matter. What is it? Asked Kong Xia. Tang Xiu said, Mom and I are going back to our hometown. Although Yinin has a nanny to take care of her, I'm still worried. Can you stay in my house in Southgate Town while I'm away? Can you help me take care of her while you're at it? No problem, said Kong Xia. Tan Xiu thanked her and returned to the villa to pack his things. A few minutes later, he brought a few sets of clothes and drove his mother, Su Lingyun, back to his hometown. Since he just got his driver's license, he couldn't go on the highway. Therefore, he could only use the navigation system to find the way back to his hometown. Chapter 234. Qinghe County was the most remote county in Star City. It was also the most backward county with the most backward economic development. The entire county had a population of hundreds of thousands and was nearly 100 kilometers away from Star City. A Land Rover SUV was driving on the dilapidated and uneven road, quickly heading toward the county hospital with the help of the county's dim street lights. Late at night, the Land Rover drove into the county hospital's gate. Upon seeing such a luxurious SUV, the originally lazy expression of the two security guards at the gate shook and even saluted. "Mom, we've arrived." Tan Xiu looked at the tired and sleepy Su Lingyun and called out in a low voice. Su Lingyun sobered up a lot. She looked at the dim light outside and said with astonishment, "We've arrived so fast?" Tan Xiu said, "Star City is not far from Qinghe County, and I've been driving for more than 2 hours. If the road is good, I'm afraid it won't even take half an hour. Mom, call the neighbor's second aunt and ask her which ward is Grandma in." Su Lingyun woke up from her dream and quickly took out her mobile. After dialing the number and talking with the other party, her expression turned extremely ugly. She turned to look at Tan Xiu and said, "Your grandma, she's still waiting for surgery in the consultation building. It seems like her leg is broken." What? Tan Xiu looked at Su Lingyun with disbelief. It must be known that it had been 3 to 4 hours since his grandma was injured, and it would only take half an hour to go from the village to the county. Why hadn't she had an operation until now? Tan Xiu's expression was a bit gloomy as he said with a deep voice, "Mom, let's go there now." Su Lingyun nodded heavily. After pushing the door open and getting off the car, she hurriedly ran toward the consultation building. A few minutes later, both mother and son arrived outside the operating room on the 4th floor of the consultation building. In the corridor outside the operating room, Tan Xiu saw his grandma lying on a trolley, as well as his neighbor's second aunt and her son, Su Ben. "Big Sis Lingyun, you're finally here. She's badly injured, but she hasn't lined up for surgery yet." Chen Huiying greeted Su Lingyun with surprise when she saw her. Su Lingyun quickly asked, "Huiying, what happened? Are there a lot of surgeries today?" Chen Huiying forced a smile and said, "I dare to guarantee you that aside from a few doctors in this operating room, there are no patients undergoing surgery at all. They were deliberately stalling for time. In our village, a total of 6 people were injured. The rest were taken away by their families, saying that they wanted to change hospitals. However, Xiao Ben had just contacted them and learned that the other hospitals were also deliberately delaying the time. They had no choice but to send him to Star City." Su Lingyun asked incredulously, "Why? Wasn't it their job to heal the wounded and rescue the dying in the hospital? Is it because it's too late?" Chen Huiying interrupted Su Lingyun and wryly smiled. "He brought some people to our village to cause trouble. He was also injured by our villagers, along with 2 others. I heard that the leader of the troublemaker's family is rich and powerful. Whether it's the Public Security Bureau or the Health Bureau, they have their people. So, they must be the ones behind this." Tan Xiu interrupted, "Second aunt, what's the reason why our villagers had a conflict with them?" Chen Huiying looked at Tan Xiu and squeezed out a smile, saying, "The government wants to expropriate our village's land, saying that they want to build an industrial park. It was originally a good thing, but, in the end, every household was only given 20,000 yuan for each mu of land. Tan Xiu, you're a cultured and reasonable person. What can you do with 20,000 yuan these days? Our common people rely on the land to grow food to eat. Once the money they gave us is used up, we'll all have nothing to eat in the future." Tan Xiu took a deep breath as anger flashed in his eyes. He knew that what second aunt said was reasonable. Rural people relied on land. How could they live in the future if they lost their land? 20,000 yuan? The housing price in Qinghe County had already reached 2,000 to 3,000 yuan per square meter. 20,000 yuan might not even be enough for the down payment of a house, right? Moreover, the compensation for land expropriation was definitely more than this amount. It might even be dozens of times more than 20,000 yuan, or even hundreds of times more. Tan Xiu looked at his unconscious grandmother, who was still frowning with a painful expression on her face. A killing intent rose in his heart. He took a deep breath and suppressed the hatred in his heart. He opened the thin quilt covering his grandmother's body and gently carried her down. He put her on a chair at the side and then looked at Su Ben, saying, "Big brother Ben, help support my grandmother. I want to see her injury." "Don't mess around, Tan Xiao," said Chen Huiying anxiously. "Aside from her leg injury, your grandmother was also kicked a few times by those bastards. I don't know if her bones have been hurt or not." Tang Xiao looked at her and shook his head. Then, when Su Ben was supporting his grandmother, he gently tore her trouser leg all the way to the bend of her leg. He watched as the swelling and the purple color subsided, and the obvious fracture subsided. Tang Xiao faintly felt a bit distressed. "It's Xiao." Zhang Shi was awakened by the pain. When she saw her grandson, Tan Xiao, squatting in front of her, she squeezed out a smile on her wrinkled face. After saying that, her skinny palm also stroked Tan Xiao's head. Tan Xiao looked up and said with a smile, "Grandma, please endure the pain. I'll take a look at your injury. Mom knows that I've recently learned some medical skills. I'm also a doctor in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. My skills are very powerful." On the other side of Zhang Shi, Su Lingyun said with a worried expression, "Xiao, can you do it? Don't let your grandmother's injury worsen." "Don't worry, Mom," said Tan Xiao. After saying that, his palm gently pinched Zhang Shi's swollen leg for a while and found that her calf bone should be fractured. If it were any other doctor, they would probably think that it would be very troublesome. After all, his grandmother was old, and it would be very difficult for her broken bones to heal. But such an injury was not a problem for him at all. "Second aunt, how did you come here?" Tan Xiao looked up and asked. "Su Quan drove us here," said Chen Huiying. "He's already gone to send the others to Star City." Tan Xiao nodded and glanced at the operating room. He already knew what the doctors in white coats were doing inside. As Chen Huiying said, there was no patient in the operating room, only 3 doctors playing landlord. "Let's go." Tan Xiao picked up Zhang Shi and said with a deep voice. Su Lingyun hurriedly asked, "Where are we going, Xiao? Aren't we going to wait for your grandmother's operation? Haven't you seen it yet?" Tan Xiao sneered. "The people in this hospital have been bribed. They won't operate on my grandmother at all. I'll settle this account with them later. Let's send my grandmother home first. I have a way to cure her injury." "You really have a way?" Although Su Lingyun knew that the president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital had personally hired Tan Xiao to be a doctor there, but she had never seen her son treat a patient, so she was still a bit worried. "I really have a way," Tan Xiao said. "Don't worry, Mom. I won't play around with my grandmother's injury." Su Lingyun nodded. She then looked at Chen Huiying and said, "Huiying, let's go. Since Xiao can cure my mother's injury, then let's not stay in this hospital." Chen Huiying hesitated. She looked at Tan Xiao and then at Su Lingyun before nodding with a forced smile. Inwardly, she was somewhat annoyed with Tan Xiao. She was perfectly aware of Tan Xiao's situation. He was obviously just a high school student, so how could he have any medical skills? Even if he had learned medicine from someone, wouldn't it be better to stay in the hospital and wait for treatment? However, since Su Lingyun said to go home, it was not good for her to say anything more. Tan Xiao left the consultation building with Mrs. Zhang and went straight to the parking lot. "We went the wrong way, Tang Xiao," said Su Ben quickly. "That's the parking lot. If we want to go back, we have to stop a car outside." Tan Xiao shook his head and went straight to the parking lot. He let Su Lingyun take the car key from his pocket and taught Su Lingyun how to unlock it. Immediately after, the car door was opened and Tan Xiao carefully put Mrs. Zhang on the back seat. Then he said, "Mom, you and second aunt sit on both sides of Grandma. Big brother Ben, you sit on the front seat." Chen Huiying and Su Ben saw Su Lingyun take the car key from Tan Xiao's pocket as the car lights flashed. The mother and son were dumbfounded because the car in front of them was too advanced. Especially Su Ben, who was now 23 years old. Although he usually followed the construction team to build houses everywhere, he still recognized this Land Rover SUV. "Tan Xiao, this car is yours?" Upon hearing Tan Xiao's words, Su Ben sobered up from his daze and asked with a stutter. "It's mine," Tan Xiao said. Su Ben desperately swallowed his saliva and said with trembling lips, "This is a Land Rover. Range Rover, right? I've seen a big boss drive this car. That big boss is very rich. I heard that his assets are tens of millions, and the cheapest car is more than 1 million, right? Don't worry about the car. Let's go back first," Tan Xiu said lightly. Su Ben hesitated for a moment before he opened the front seat's door and quickly got in. Feeling the spacious space and comfortable seat, he felt like he was dreaming, because he had never sat in such a good car in his life. Even sitting there, he didn't know where to put his hands and feet. Tan Xiu started the car and skillfully drove out of the hospital, rushing toward the Su family village in Songlu town. The Su family village was not far from the county town, and it was only a dozen minutes away by car. However, due to the poor road conditions, Tan Xiu drove very slowly to avoid his grandmother from getting too much bumps. A dilapidated house with a dilapidated courtyard. Mrs. Zhang usually lived here. Even the Su family's ancestors lived here. Except for the daughter-in-law who married into the family, all the villagers in the Su family village had the surname Su. Almost every family was related to each other and could be regarded as their own family. "Let Grandma go back to the house first. I need to prepare something," said Tan Xiu. With a puzzled expression, Su Lingyun said, "Xiu, what do you need to prepare? Tell me, I'll go find it." Chapter 235. Tan Xiu rejected Su Lingyun's proposal. What he needed to find were herbs and silver needles. Because he came in a hurry and didn't know how his grandmother's injury was, he didn't bring anything to treat her. "Big brother Ben, are you sleepy?" asked Tan Xiu. "No, I'm not sleepy." Su Ben shook his head. "All right, then come with me," Tan Xiu said. "Let's find the things as soon as possible and then come back to treat my grandmother's injury." "All right." Su Ben nodded. Tan Xiu knew Su Ben. He had been very simple and honest since he was a child, and he was usually a man of few words. But no matter what happened in the village, he would always lend a helping hand if someone's family was in trouble. In this regard, he took after his father, the loyal and honest second uncle who had a short life. In fact, although Tan Xiu had lived in the Su family village for more than 10 years since he was a child, he was a foreigner. It was reasonable to say that he should call Chen Huiying as his second aunt, and even the elders in the village should call him uncle or aunt. But Su Lingyun didn't want Tan Xiu to feel that he didn't belong here, so she asked him to address everyone as uncle, aunt, uncle, auntie, or grandpa and grandma according to the Su family. Except his maternal grandparents, as well as his first uncle's family. Tan Xiu took Su Ben back to the car and quickly drove out of the village. Because the Su family village was one of the mountain ranges in the Yuzhou Ridge to the north, and there was also a tens of meters wide river nearby, the land here was fertile. Su Ben saw that Tan Xiu didn't drive to the town nor the county town, but to the mountain in the north of the village. He immediately asked with confusion, "Tan Xiu, why are we going there? Do you still remember when you took us to the mountain to pick wild fruits when we were young?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I saw a lot of wild herbs in the mountain before, but I didn't know them at that time and thought they were weeds. Now that I've learned some medical skills, I need medicinal herbs to treat my grandmother's injury. So, let's go to the mountains and get some medicinal herbs." Su Ben suddenly understood as he raised his thumb and said, "You're really amazing, Tan Xiu. You've been studying in Star City for 6 years, right?" Not only did he drive a Land Rover on his way back, but he also learned medical skills. "If I had known earlier, I would have gone with you to Star City." Tan Xiu smiled faintly and did not speak again. He didn't learn all his skills in Star City. If it wasn't for that car accident, if it wasn't for that huge fortuitous encounter, he might still be an ignorant student, studying step by step every day, taking exams, and waiting for his college entrance test scores. Sometimes, it was really magical. After Tan Xiu became a paragon of the immortal world, he no longer believed in fate. He believed that he could control fate and the heavenly Tao. However, fate and the heavenly Tao held supreme power for ordinary people. A pitch-black night. Tan Xiu felt the cool breeze of the late summer night. The hostility in his heart was washed away by a lot. He would investigate the matter of his grandmother being beaten to the end. Regardless of the other party's background, hurting the people he cared about was unforgivable. Stop the car. Let's go up the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, Tan Xiu turned off the engine and calmly spoke after getting out of the car. Tan Xiu, aren't you afraid that someone will steal the car? Su Ben hesitated. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile, it's the middle of the night. Who would run to the back mountain for no reason? Besides, if someone has the ability, they can steal it. All right, finding the medicinal herbs is more important. You don't need to think about other things. Su Ben nodded. It was, after all, Tan Xiu's car, and Tan Xiu had the final say on it. At present, he was very curious about Tan Xiu. He was curious about where he got the money to buy such a luxurious car, and also curious about his medical skills. Tan Xiu and Su Ben walked on the winding and rugged mountain path as if they were walking on flat ground. They quickly shuttled through the mountain forest. In just 20 minutes, the two of them had climbed halfway up the mountain. Tan Xiu, let's be careful. You know the situation in this mountain forest. There are a lot of wild beasts even at night. In case we run into a pack of wolves and bears, it'll be troublesome. Su Ben was simple and honest, but he was also a meticulous and cautious person. Don't worry. Tan Xiu nodded casually. If it was before, he might be more cautious than Su Ben. But now, he was no longer an ignorant person. He could easily deal with ordinary wild beasts with just a few punches and kicks. Tan Xiu, I know you've been smart since you were a child. But now it's different from the past. A very powerful leopard appeared in this mountain a few days ago. Gen Z's father wanted to go up the mountain to hunt some game, but he died inside. At that time, the villagers organized dozens of people to go up the mountain to look for him, but they only found his clothes and bones. Moreover, we ran into a leopard that was as big as a bull. If I hadn't brought a gun with me at that time, I'm afraid some of us would have died. A leopard as big as a bull? Tan Xiu was surprised. Are you kidding me? If there's really such a big leopard, isn't it a spirit? Su Ben forced a smile and said, I reckon that leopard is really a spirit. Its speed is faster than the tiger we saw when we were young, and it's at least twice as fast. Also, after we left the mountain, Gen Z and I sneaked back to this mountain and saw with our own eyes that the leopard easily killed a few wild wolves. You must know that there were more than a dozen wild wolves besieging it at that time. Tan Xiu's eyes lit up. Through Su Ben's description, he was sure that the leopard was definitely a fierce beast with spiritual wisdom. Although he was not short of fierce beast skeletons, it would be a good thing if he could kill one. The more the better. Tan Xiu, we have to look for it quickly. My mobile phone is almost out of battery, and the phone light won't last long. Seeing Tan Xiu's thoughtful expression, Su Ben urged him in a low voice. Tan Xiu nodded. It didn't matter to him whether he used the phone light or not. Even at night, his eyes could clearly see everything around him. Moreover, he didn't rely on his eyes to look for medicinal herbs in the mountain, but his spiritual sense. With the release of his spiritual sense, the grass and trees within the radius of 200 meters were shrouded. Only in this way could he find the herbs he needed in the shortest time. Found it. 10 minutes later, Tan Xiu's eyes lit up. He quickly found the herbs he needed in a cliff crevice. Silver dragon grass. Tan Xiu, is this what you're looking for? Su Ben's expression was a bit strange. He stared at the herb in Tan Xiu's hand for a while and curiously asked, That's the one. Tan Xiu said, This silver dragon grass has the effect of removing blood clots and nourishing bones. This herb is not easy to find. I came to this mountain to look for it because I remember seeing this silver dragon grass when we were young. Su Ben touched his nose and said with a wry smile, Had I known you wanted this herb, we wouldn't have exhausted ourselves to come here. A few days ago, I cut the grass to feed the sheep and cut a lot of this herb. Some of those grasses are still in the straw shed. What? Tan Xiu looked at Su Ben incredulously. It must be known that the price of a silver dragon grass would be more than 1,000 yuan in the medicinal herb market in the cities. Su Ben actually fed the sheep with silver dragon grass? Wasn't this too extravagant and wasteful? Tan Xiu secretly shook his head and said with a wry smile, Brother Ben, after you go back, immediately pick out the silver dragon grass. Remember, this herb is very valuable. If you can find a lot of it, I'm willing to buy it for 1,000 yuan. What? Su Ben's eyes widened. He was almost scared to death by Tan Xiu's words. 1,000 yuan? He was farming and raising livestock at home, and he also had to follow the construction team to build houses for others. How much money could he earn in a year? At most, it was only 20,000 yuan, right? This silver dragon grass was worth 1,000 yuan, so the 23 silver dragon grass were worth a year's worth of his hard work. Tan Xiu, you're not joking with me, are you? Su Ben asked with a serious face. Tan Xiu said, I'm absolutely not joking with you. If you can find the silver dragon grass, I'm really willing to buy it for 1,000 yuan. However, there are wild beasts in this mountain. Don't easily come to the mountain just to find the silver dragon grass to sell. Su Ben said, Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. So, after I go back, I'll go home and see how many silver dragon grasses are left. Alright. Tan Xiu nodded. Subsequently, the two of them didn't stay in the mountain. Although they didn't encounter that fierce beast, Tan Xiu felt a bit regretful. But his grandmother's injury was more important, and he couldn't stay here for too long. After smoothly returning to the parking place, Tan Xiu drove back to the Su family village, while Su Ben got off at his door. Because Su Ben told Tan Xiu that there were silver needles in the village head's house, Tan Xiu didn't need to go elsewhere to find them. Xiu, have you found what you're looking for? Seeing Tan Xiu coming back, Su Lingyun asked with a concerned face. I've found it, said Tan Xiu. Wait for Big Brother Ben to come, then I'll be able to treat my grandmother's injury. Although Chen Huiying was very sleepy, she didn't go home to sleep. She was worried about Zhang Shi's injury, and her son had left with Tan Xiu, so she had been waiting here. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, she curiously asked, Didn't Ben leave with you? Where did he go? He went to the village head's house, said Tan Xiu. He said that there are silver needles in the village head's house. Chen Huiying nodded and said, Yes, the village head used to be a barefoot doctor. If he hadn't had an accident more than a decade ago and killed someone, I'm afraid he would still be a doctor in our village now. Zhang Shi was awake at the moment, and she had just talked a lot with her daughter. Seeing that Tan Xiu had come back, she waved her hand and called Tan Xiu over. Then she said, Xiu, Grandma is very useless, isn't she? She just lightly hit me twice and my leg was broken. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, Grandma, you're old, but in my heart, you're the most capable person. When I was a child, I liked to eat the osmanthus cake you made for me the most. Although Zhang Shi endured the pain, she still smiled and said, When Grandma's leg is better, I'll make osmanthus cake for you. Tan Xiu smiled and said, Thank you, Grandma. I know that apart from my mother, you're the best to me. Chapter 236. Mrs. Zhang smiled and said, Xiu, your mother has told me about the matter between you and your uncle's family. Grandma doesn't blame you. Shangwen, he really changed. Do you know what your grandfather hoped for the most before he died? What is it? The smile on Tan Xiu's face slowly disappeared as he asked in a low voice. Mrs. Zhang sighed. I hoped that Shangwen would go bankrupt and have no money. Tan Xiu's brows raised as he asked with a confused expression, Why? Mrs. Zhang said, When he had no money, his character was very good. He was docile and polite to everyone. But ever since he became rich, he offended all the young and old men in the village. Furthermore, it's been 3 years and he hasn't come back even once. I know that you and your mother must have suffered a lot in Star City all these years. But alas. Upon hearing this, Tan Xiu felt warm inside. However, he could still keenly feel the bitterness in his grandmother's tone. After all, Su Shangwen was her biological son. What mother didn't wish for her son to be well? Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and slowly said, Grandma, let him stay in prison for a few years first. When he's sharpened enough, I'll think of a way to get him out. I hope he can turn over a new leaf and have a bit of humanity at that time. An excited expression flashed in Mrs. Zhang's eyes as she silently nodded. Tan Xiu spoke again, Grandma, wait for me to cure your leg. Then, you can come with us to live in Star City. Our family's living conditions are much better than before. The restaurant opened by my mother has a very prosperous business. Although I've just graduated from the college entrance test, I've also done some business and made a lot of money. You can go back with us and enjoy a good life in the future. Mrs. Zhang said with a carefree smile, Xiao, Grandma appreciates your filial piety. But I'm a person with half of my body buried in the yellow soil. Won't I just cause trouble for you if I go? Forget it. I've lived here all my life and my days are about to come to an end. What's the point of messing around? Tan Xiao said, Grandma, you can still live for a long time with me here. Don't worry. It's really not troublesome to follow us to Star City. I'm going to Shanghai to study soon, and there's only my mom left in Star City. You can accompany her if you go with her. Madame Zhang looked at Su Lingyun, whose face was full of anticipation and hesitated. Su Lingyun quickly said, Mom, I really don't feel at ease leaving you here alone all the time. Just listen to Xiao. If you come with us to Star City, we can live together every day. Our family's condition wasn't very good before, but now it's better. We have a big villa, a big restaurant, and Xiao has a big company in Star City. Zhang took a deep breath and shook her head. Xiao, don't try to persuade me. I've lived here for so many years that I wouldn't be used to a sudden change of environment. The neighbors in our village are very kind to me. They can take care of me if I need anything. Just do your thing and don't worry about me. Su Lingyun's expression turned gloomy. She knew her mother's character. If she had made a decision, she wouldn't be able to change her mind even if she tried her best to persuade her. Tan Xiao thought for a moment and said, Grandma, since you really don't want to go to Star City, then stay here. Our house needs to be repaired, so I'll take out some money to rebuild it. Also, I'll hire 2 nannies from Star City to stay here to accompany and take care of you. Zhang waved her hand and said, No. I live here by myself, so I don't need to rebuild the house. It'll cost a lot of money. Also, I'm just an old woman, so I don't need nannies to take care of me. Although I'm old, my legs are still agile, so I don't need anyone to take care of me. Standing at the side, Chen Huiying's eyes flashed with astonishment as she asked, Lingyun, is what you just said true? Is your restaurant doing very well? And you live in a big villa? Even Tan Xiao has a company? What I said is true. Su Lingyun nodded and said, My restaurant's business has only been getting better in the last 2 months. As for the villa and the company, it's the result of Xiao's efforts. Chen Huiying looked at Tan Xiao and her expression immediately changed. Recalling the car Tan Xiao drove back, she felt that Su Lingyun shouldn't be lying to her. Suddenly, Tan Xiao's eyes lit up as he looked at Chen Huiying and asked, Second aunt, can we go out and have a chat? Go out and have a chat? Chen Huiying was confused. Why do we have to go out and have a chat? Let's talk here if you have something to say. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, I have a private matter to discuss with you. I also told Big Brother Kai before that I want to buy medicinal herbs here. It's the kind of grass you feed your sheep with. In fact, there's a very good medicinal herb there. Chen Huiying hesitated for a moment before she nodded and said, All right then. Let's go out and see why little Ben hasn't come back yet. As the duo came out of the courtyard, Tan Xiao said, Second aunt, I've actually told Big Brother Kai about the medicinal herb. It's called silver dragon grass. I'll buy as many as you have. The reason I called you out is because I want to talk to you about something else. Chen Huiying didn't know much about medicinal herbs, so she didn't ask much and said, All right, say it. Second aunt, you know my grandma's character. Since she doesn't want to go to Star City with us, can you please take care of her later? Tan Xiao said. Chen Huiying couldn't help laughing and said, What are you talking about, child? If we don't take care of her, how can she not sleep so late? Can you personally send her to the county hospital? Don't worry. Your grandma will be fine as long as we're here. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, That's not what I mean, second aunt. Let's put it this way. How much money can you earn in a year by farming at home? Why are you asking this? Chen Huiying was confused. You'll know it later. Answer me first, said Tan Xiao. Chen Huiying hesitated for a moment. She silently calculated in her heart for a moment. She then stretched out her finger and said, "It should be 10,000 yuan, right? I've raised a lot of sheep and some fruit trees at home. If I pay you to take care of my grandma and pay you 20,000 yuan a year, would you be willing?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Tan Xiu, why are you talking nonsense?" Chen Huiying frowned and said, "Even if you don't give me a penny, I'll take care of Auntie." "All right, I understand what you mean. I promise you that as long as I can walk and have food and drink, I won't let your grandma suffer." Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and said, "You're a good person, second aunt. Since you don't want the money, then I won't force you. I'll thank you in advance." Chen Huiying patted Tan Xiu's arm and scolded with a smile, "Little bastard, don't treat me like an outsider." "Second aunt, give me your bank card number," said Tan Xiu. Chen Huiying stared blankly for a moment. Then her face turned cold and she angrily said, "Tan Xiu, what's wrong with you? Do you think your second aunt is the kind of person who only sees money? If you do this again, I won't take care of your grandma anymore." "I don't mean anything else, second aunt," said Tan Xiu quickly. "I want your bank card number because I want to transfer some money to you. But this money is not only for you, but also for my grandma. Think about it. You'll take care of her at home. Whether it's food, clothing, or other things, you'll have to spend money, right? I'll transfer 100,000 yuan to your card, so you can buy more clothes and food for my grandma in the future. You can tell me when you've spent the money. I'll transfer the money to you at that time." 100,000 yuan? Chen Huiying's heartbeat sped up. But after a few seconds, she shook her head and said, "Tan Xiu, I really can't take this money. Otherwise, the whole village will point at my back and scold me. You can rest assured that our family won't let your grandma starve and freeze. I'll still say the same thing. If our family has food, drinks, and clothing, then your grandma will have enough." A forced smile was revealed on Tan Xiu's face. After hesitating for a moment, he reluctantly said, "Since you really don't want the money, then forget it. Just wait for me, let Big Brother Ben go with me." "Go with you?" Chen Huiying was confused. "Didn't you say that you're going to study in Shanghai soon? Besides building houses for others, little Ben only knows how to farm. Why would he go with you? I'll arrange a job for him with a good salary. If he's diligent and conscientious in his work, I guarantee you that he'll be able to earn enough money to buy a house in Star City in a few years at most. I think you also hope that Big Brother Ben can make a name for himself and walk out of our small mountain village, right?" Chen Huiying's eyes lit up. Tan Xiu's words really hit the bottom of her heart. It was because her son was incompetent and their family didn't have much money. Up until now, their family had yet to build a new house, and her son had yet to find a wife. Seeing other children of the same age in the village living in new houses and marrying new wives, and even some of their children were already a few years old, she was very anxious. "Tan Xiu, can you really arrange a job for little Ben? Can he really have a good income?" Chen Huiying asked with a bit of worry. "Don't worry," Tan Xiu said. "As long as Big Brother Ben is willing to work hard, he'll definitely make a lot of money in the future. If he really can't do it, I'll let him work in my company. I'll give him 8 or 10,000 yuan a month." Chen Huiying clapped her hands and said with an excited expression, "Great, great, great. Thank you so much. I'll definitely take good care of your grandmother and treat her like my own mother-in-law." Upon hearing Chen Huiying's assurance, Tan Xiu finally felt relieved. He said with a smile, "Second aunt, please don't tell anyone about what we just talked about. Don't tell anyone, including Big Brother Ben." Chen Huiying heavily nodded and said, "Don't worry. I'll let the words we talked about today rot in my stomach. Tan Xiu, bring it." While speaking, Su Ben hurriedly ran from the distant path and shouted while waving the small box in his hand. Behind him was the old village chief, Su Changhe, who was over 70 years old, who trotted after him. Chapter 237. Su Changhe had absolute prestige in the Su family village. In the past few years, he had led everyone in planting fruit trees and crops. He would be the first to rush to the front whenever something happened to a family. He would always help whoever was in trouble without any complaints or regrets. Even his son, the current village head of the Su family village, admires him and is particularly filial. Xiao, do you remember who I am? Su Changhe was a gentle person. After seeing Tan Xiao, the wrinkles on his face immediately smoothed out, and his whole old face bloomed with a smile. Tan Xiao smiled, old village chief grandpa. Su Changhe laughed heartily and said, not bad. You've really grown into a young man. You haven't come back for almost 2 years, right? This guy is really tall. Tan Xiao said, it's true that I haven't been back for nearly 2 years. If it wasn't for the fact that something happened to me, I would have come back to see you long ago. Su Changhe nodded and said, your surname is not Su, but you are a child of our Su village. By the way, I just heard from little Ben that you brought your grandmother back? And you want to treat your grandmother yourself? Tan Xiao, this old man's broken legs and arms are no small matter. Do you really have the confidence that you can handle it? Tan Xiao said confidently, Grandpa Old Village Chief, I'm really confident. Recently, I've been giving medical services in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital and can be considered as a doctor now. Su Changhe was shocked. You're working at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital? That's not right. You should be in high school now. You should be taking the college entrance examination this year. Tan Xiao smiled. Old Village Head Grandpa, you really remember my matters clearly. That's right, I have indeed just finished my college entrance examination. When the sun rises, I can check my college entrance examination results. As for giving medical services at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, it's because I was invited by the hospital's president. At the side, Su Ben suddenly said, Tan Xiao, you're going to work at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Do you know any powerful leaders? The rest of the wounded in our village have been sent to Star City. When I arrived at Grandpa Village Chief's house, Gen Z called me and told me that they had just settled down in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. But what? Asked Tan Xiao with a frown. Su Ben forced a smile and said, they said that recently, they heard that a divine doctor appeared in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Patients from all over the province are flocking to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. There are indeed doctors on duty there, but there's no ward. Tang Xiao took out his mobile and dialed a cell number. To master? Dai Xinyue's voice came from the phone. She seemed to be in a very chaotic environment, and there were also noises that were not very loud. I'm at the hospital? Dai asked. Dai Xinyue said, I'm in the hospital. There are a lot of patients tonight, so I'm still busy. I turned days, and said, Doctor. To doctor of Tian 5 to wounded patients who were sent to Mu Ed Ben's village. Find and help to arrange rooms for ward for them. Dai Xinyue hesitated. I don't have that authority. Li if she is. Li there. Yang family Yang is. If she's not there, go find Li Hongji. In any case, help me arrange it tonight. Alright. Dai Xinyue put down her phone with a frown. Tan Xiao looked at Su Ben and Su Changhe and said, Don't worry. I've already arranged it on the phone. It should be ready soon. Big Brother Ben, you contact them and keep an eye on the situation there. Let's go inside now. I still have to treat Grandma. Let's go inside. Su Changhe quickly waved and said. The dim light flickered in the dilapidated tile-roofed house. The light bulb tied by the rope was constantly swaying with the wind, creating layers of light and shadow. Tan Xiao squatted beside Zhang Shi. He gently lifted her leg and said, Grandma, it will be a bit painful when I treat you. Please bear with it. I'll be able to cure your injury in a short time. Zhang Shi said with a smile, Just do it. I can bear it. Tan Xiao nodded. He took out the silver needles from the box and quickly sealed the acupoints near the broken bone. Then, he constantly rubbed the silver needles with his fingers. Soon, the purplish-red swollen part of Zhang Shi's leg turned purplish-black, and the degree of swelling became bigger. About half a minute later, Tan Xiao's fingers slowly pulled out a silver needle. In a flash, black blood spurted out. When all the silver needles were pulled out, black blood spurted out from the places where the silver needles had not been inserted. Xiao, this Su Lingyun's pupils shrunk and a horrified expression burst out from her eyes. Tan Xiao calmly said, "The broken bone punctured the capillaries, causing the internal blood clot to appear. The clotted blood must be let out." Su Lingyun came to a realization, and her heart that was hanging in the air was slightly relieved. Tan Xiao pinched a silver needle. The moment the black blood stopped flowing, he held the broken bone with both hands and suddenly exerted force to realign the bone and adjust its position. With the help of star power, the broken bone was restored to its original position. 2 pieces of bone the size of rice grains were accurately adjusted by Tan Xiao to the original position. "It hurts." Thick sweat overflowed from Zhang Shi's forehead and slid down her wrinkled face. Tan Xiao's hands were filled with star power. Although he knew that his grandmother must be suffering great pain at the moment, in order to cure her leg injury, Tan Xiao felt a little uncomfortable, but he still endured it. He reduced the strength of his hands by half and slowly kneaded. He infused his star power into his grandmother's leg injury to nourish and repair the bones and muscles, which could play a role in speeding up the healing process. A few minutes later, the painful look on Zhang Shi's face disappeared a little, and her knitted brows relaxed a lot. 10 minutes later, Zhang Shi looked at Tan Xiao in surprise. She only felt a faint pain in her leg now. If she did not pay attention, she would not feel it. Half an hour later, the painful look on Zhang Shi's face disappeared completely and was replaced by a strong feeling of comfort. The pain in her leg disappeared completely. Instead, after a burst of coolness, the place where the bone was originally broken became warm, as if the inside of the bone was being roasted. An hour later, Tan Xiao let go of his hand and looked at his grandmother who had fallen asleep. He made a silent gesture to the others in the room, pulled the quilt over her, and then gestured for everyone to leave the room. In the courtyard, Su Lingyun hurriedly asked, "Xiao, how is your grandmother's injury?" Tang Xiao let out a faint smile and said, "I've already dealt with it. Grandma will recover in a week at most. However, during this week, I'm afraid she will not be able to walk around much. By the way, find 2 pieces of deck and tie them to Grandma's injured leg to prevent a second fracture." "I'll go now," Su Lingyun immediately said. Tan Xiao nodded with a smile. He then looked at the old village chief Su Changhe, Chen Huiying, and Su Ben, saying, "It's too late. You all go to sleep. If we have anything to talk about, wait until dawn." Su Changhe, Chen Huiying, and Su Ben didn't move either. Their eyes looked straight at Tan Xiao. They were somewhat disappointed, but there was also a trace of curiosity. Chen Huiying was a person who couldn't hide things in her heart. She said, "Tan Xiao, you're not joking with us, are you? Even if it's a child with the fastest bone growth, if his leg is broken, it's impossible for him to recover in a week. As the saying goes, it takes 100 days to recover from an injury." Tan Xiao interrupted her and said with a smile, "Second aunt, no matter how I explain it now, I can't change your old ideas. Let's wait and see. I promise I'll surprise you a week later." Su Changhe's lips squirmed, but he ultimately didn't speak. He shook his head, sighed, and turned away. Chen Huiying also shook her head and sighed. She then turned away. Su Ben was silent for a few seconds. He gently punched Tan Xiao's chest and said with a silly smile, "Tan Xiao, I believe you. You've been smart since you were a child, and you almost never lie. You said you can make your grandmother recover, then you can definitely make her recover." The feeling of being trusted was good. Tan Xiao faintly smiled. He patted Su Ben's shoulder and said, "Are you sleepy? If you're not, why don't you talk to me?" Su Ben looked at his mother's back. After taking back his vision, he took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and asked, "Do you want one?" Tan Xiao was silent for a moment. He then reached out to take it. He had learned to smoke and drink during that muddle-headed year. So after lighting it up, he took a deep breath and slowly said, "Big brother Ben, how about going back with me when I return to Star City?" Su Ben stared blankly and asked with a confused expression, "Why would I go with you?" Tan Xiao said with a smile, "To help me with some things." Su Ben pondered for a moment before he shook his head and said, "Tan Xiao, I know you have the ability now and have opened a company. But apart from farming and building houses, I don't know anything else. I won't be able to help you even if I go with you. Let's just forget it. You can learn things you don't know. Tan Xiao said with a smile, if you're willing to work hard and endure hardships, I guarantee that you'll have a good development. Big Brother Ben, our ancestors have been facing the yellow soil with their backs facing the sky. Every day, we work at sunrise and return at sunset. Don't tell me you don't want to change this kind of 9-to-5 life? Su Ben hesitated and asked, then, what do you want me to do? Be a security guard. Tan Xiao said. A disappointed look appeared on Su Ben's face as he forced a smile and said, how much money can a security guard earn? There are a few people in our village who go out to work as security guards in Shanghai. They earn 5,000 to 6,000 a month from the company, but after deducting the expenses of food, drinks, and accommodation, they don't even have 2,000 yuan left. Tan Xiao said, they are them, and you are you. If you're diligent and can endure hardships, let alone 5,000 to 6,000 a month, you can even earn 50,000 to 60,000 a month. Being a security guard can earn so much money? Asked Su Ben with a blank expression. Tan Xiao said with a smile, well, it depends on who I'm going to be a security guard. Let's do it this way. You're going to Star City with me to be an ordinary security guard. You'll earn 5,000 yuan a month with food and accommodation provided. If you do well and conscientiously in 3 months, I'll promote you to be a security captain, and you'll earn 10,000 yuan a month. How about it? I'll do it. Su Ben's eyes lit up as he replied without hesitation. Tan Xiao said with a smile, we grew up together. Although you're a few years older than me, I know you very well. I'm relieved to hand over some important business secrets to you to help me look after them. Su Ben said with a smile, whatever you give me, I'll do it well. Chapter 238. Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. With a restless mood, Dai Xinyue found the 5 wounded patients from the Su family village. After learning about their situation, she hurried to the resting place of the inpatient department's director. Knock knock, come in. The inpatient department director's voice came from the room. Dai Xinyue pushed the door and entered. She saw the inpatient department director sitting up from the single bed and putting on his coat. You are? The inpatient department director didn't pay attention to Dai Xinyue. He just felt that she looked familiar, so he asked curiously. Dai Xinyue said, Director, I'm Dai Xinyue, an intern doctor in our hospital. I have something to talk to you about. The inpatient department director was a bit annoyed. He had been busy all day and night. He had just slept for 2 or 3 hours, yet he was woken up. However, he didn't show it on the surface. He nodded and said, What's the matter? Speak. Dai Xinyue said, Director, there are 5 wounded patients in our hospital. Although they have received treatment, they don't have a ward to stay in. They are now sleeping on the floor in the corridor. Can you help arrange a few wards for them? The inpatient department director angrily said, There are too many patients in the hospital now, and the wards are not enough. You want me to arrange a ward? Who should I find to arrange it? You came to me just for this matter? Dai Xinyue said in a low voice, It's about this matter. Nonsense. The inpatient department director angrily said, You're also a doctor in our hospital. Don't you know the situation of the hospital? You want a room directly from the leader? Don't you know the hospital's written regulations? Everything will go according to the normal procedures. Tell me, which department are you from? Dai Xinyue hesitated and whispered, I'm now helping with the outpatient department. Outpatient department? The inpatient department director raised his brows and coldly snorted, Then go and do the odd jobs well. Don't come to me for this kind of thing later. Also, tell your leader. That's right, who's your leader? Dai Xinyue said bitterly, Tan Xiao. The inpatient department's director hummed and said, Then, tell Tang Xiao to manage his men well. Don't go and do things for no reason. His voice abruptly stopped. He seemed to have thought of someone as the angry expression on his face froze. Looking at Dai Xinyue, he asked, What did you just say? Who's your leader? It's Tan Xiao, said Dai Xinyue. Tan Xiao is in the outpatient department. He just came to our hospital not long ago. The inpatient department director's expression changed a few times. Finally, he squeezed out a smile and said, Are you the little girl who helped Tan Xiu? What was it called again? The Dai Xinyue. The inpatient department's director nodded again and again. The smile on his face grew wider as he said, Yes, it's Dai Xinyu. A few days ago, I heard that Tan Xiu accepted a disciple named Dai Xinyue. I didn't expect it to be you. Are you here on Tan Xiu's orders? It's his idea, said Dai Xinyue truthfully. Those injured people seem to be from his hometown. The inpatient department director immediately stood up and said in a deep voice, Come with me. I remember that our hospital still has 2 wards reserved for acute patients. Since those injured people are from Tan Xiu's hometown, I have to vacate them no matter what. He was no fool. Today's Star City Chinese Medical Hospital couldn't be compared to the past. Nowadays, whether it was the reputation of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital or Tan Xiu's, both were extremely resounding. Not to mention a large number of patients from the province, even patients from all over the country came after hearing the news. Even a few days ago, the people from the TV station wanted to interview him. But the president knew that Tan Xiu didn't want to be in the limelight, so he suppressed the matter. Although he was the inpatient department director and seemed to be about to be promoted, he was very self-aware. Compared to Tan Xiu, he couldn't even be considered as a dish. Even the principal had to serve that little ancestor now. Didn't he see it? Tan Xiu had only been working in the hospital for less than a week, yet the president had personally accompanied him to eat several meals. 10 minutes later, the 5 patients of the Su family village were arranged in 2 spacious wards. Each ward had a total of 3 beds, and one of them was added temporarily. Even so, the room was still very spacious. There were 7 or 8 villagers of the Su family village accompanying the 5 patients inside, yet they didn't feel crowded. You can stay here. The hospital leaders have just said that your hospitalization fees will be exempted, and your medical expenses will be reimbursed at the highest price. Since you have family members here, I won't arrange a nurse for you. In short, if there's anything, just contact me. I'm the inpatient department director, so I'll definitely provide good service. The inpatient department director said with a smile. Each and every one of the patients and their family members in the ward revealed a grateful expression. At the same time, they were deeply puzzled. Especially Su Quan. He was usually very smart and good at observing people's expressions. Recalling the previous treatment and the current treatment, he instantly understood the problem. He hesitated for a moment. His eyes fell on Dai Xinyue. Although she was a beauty, her attitude was very gentle, and she didn't look like a big shot. Therefore, he approached Dai Xinyue's side and whispered, Beautiful doctor, can I ask you what's going on here? The hospital has a shortage of wards. As the patient's family members, we all know that. But how come we were suddenly arranged such a good ward? Moreover, all 5 of us are staying here. Dai Xinyue chuckled, It's my master who asked me to find the inpatient department director. Who's your master? Does he know us? Su Quan asked with a confused expression. My master is Tan Xiu. He's also a doctor in this hospital, said Dai Xinyue. Tan Xiu? Su Quan stared blankly for a moment. Then, an incredulous expression appeared on his face as he said, You're not talking about the Tan Xiu who studied in Xingqing First High School, are you? Yeah. Dai Xinyue said with a smile. My master did study in Xingqing First High School before, and he just took the college entrance test this year. Su Quan's lips squirmed a few times. He suddenly realized that his childhood friends seemed to have changed. Not only did he become a doctor in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, but he also had a beautiful apprentice. Even the director of the inpatient department personally came over to arrange a room for everyone. Looking at Su Quan's shocked expression, Dai Xinyue said with a chuckle, Actually, you can't find a ward. It's mainly my master's fault. If it weren't for my master, you could have come to our Star City Chinese Medical Hospital at any time. Su Quan stared blankly and asked with a confused expression, What do you mean? Dai Xinyue said with a smile, Do you know why our hospital's wards are so tight? Su Quan nodded and said, I've inquired about it. I heard that a very powerful divine doctor came to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital recently. During this period of time, the godly doctor was able to cure any patient. Therefore, a lot of patients from all over the country have heard the news. You mean? Dai Xinyue said with a smile, very smart. That's right. The one who caused the situation is my master, Tan Xiu. Su Quan's mouth twitched a few times. For a moment he didn't know what to say. However, the warmth and gratitude in his heart didn't lessen even a bit. He knew that if it weren't for Tan Xiu, perhaps the villagers would still be lying in the corridor, and they would be squatting in the corridor to take care of the wounded. Where's your master? Can I see him? Dai Xinyue said, I don't know where he is. A disappointed expression appeared on Su Quan's face. Suddenly, his expression moved as he recalled that Tang Xiu's grandmother seemed to have been injured because of this incident. Since he knew about the Su family village, then he must have rushed back to Qinghe County. In a flash, he quickly took out his mobile and dialed Su Ben's cell number. Hello, Big Brother Ben, have you seen Tan Xiu? At the Su family village. Su Ben was chatting with Tan Xiu when he received Su Quan's call. After hearing the inquiry, he said, I've seen him. We're chatting. Su Quan immediately said, give him the phone. I want to talk to him. Su Ben complied and handed the phone to Tan Xiu. He then said with a smile, it's a call from Quan Zi. He's looking for you. Tan Xiu faintly smiled. He had a good relationship with Su Ben because his grandmother's house and Su Ben's house were only separated by a wall. Tan Xiu loved to play with Su Ben since childhood. As for his good relationship with Su Quan, it was because they were of similar age and had been together since childhood. They were the kind of people who went to the river to fish, climbed trees, and dug birds' nests. Quan Zi, you're looking for me? Tan Xiu said with a smile. Su Quan called out, Tan Xiu, is it really you? You're also the one who arranged the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital's matter? Have you been settled there? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. I just made a phone call, that's all. Su Quan was shocked and said, amazing. You're really amazing now, kid. Even the inpatient department's director was alarmed by a phone call. He personally arranged 2 wards for us. The most unbelievable thing is that you turned out to be the mysterious divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Alright, don't shout, kid. Tan Xiu scolded with a smile. When will you come back from Star City? Su Quan said, I'll rush back overnight. The 5 injured villagers are being looked after by their families. I'm responsible for sending them here. Just wait for me. I haven't seen you for almost 2 years. Let's drink a few bottles when we see each other. All right, I'll wait for you. After Tan Xiu finished speaking, he returned the phone to Su Ben. Seeing that the call had ended, Su Ben put away the phone and said with a smile, you 2 grew up together naked, and your relationship is really good. You're smart, and Quan Zi is also smart. In our village, the 2 of you are the most congenial and best friends. Brother Ben, you're wrong to say that. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Aren't you the one who's best friends with me? I remember when we were young, the 2 of us always ran behind your ass. Su Ben couldn't help laughing. He smiled a lot more than usual when he was with Tang Xiu. Tan Xiu took a puff of his cigarette and changed the topic, saying, Brother Ben, can you tell me about the situation in the village? Who's the leader of the troublemakers in our village? The other party is so arrogant, yet he can get the approval from the government. I'm afraid he has a powerful background, right? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.